Jake Asman Show will begin shortly. Thanks to all these great Patreon members who help support the show. Get your Superchats ready. Jake will be here in just a moment. If you love the New York Jets, this is the place to be. And now, the Jake Asman Show.
See you later, Joe Douglas. JD is out. The Jets have started the search for a new GM. We'll talk about what it means and more. It's the Jake Asman Show. Let's hit it and get it started.
Please subscribe and hit the like button below. Super Chat, baby. Cut the line. Now it's time to talk all things New York Jets. It's the Jake Asman Show.
Well, Woody couldn't wait. Joe Douglas is gone. Statement from Ambassador Johnson, baby. Today I informed Joe Douglas he will no longer serve as the general manager of the New York Jets. I want to thank Joe for his commitment to the Jets over the last 6 years and wish him and his family the best moving forward. Phil Savage will be the interim general manager for the remainder of the season. We will begin the process to identify a new general manager immediately. Here's the deal. Joe Douglas has been dead man walking for a long time. If you watched that embarrassing press conference a few weeks ago, you knew this was coming. There was no scenario once the Jets dropped to 3-8 that Joe Douglas was going to be here next year. So I think it is unequivocally the right decision to do this now. The bottom line with Joe Douglas is this. He was 30-64 in almost 6 years as the GM. 30-64 with 0 playoff appearances. His record was only going to get worse over the final 6 games. The Jets did Joe Douglas a favor. He had no power left. If you've been following the saga, he had no input, apparently, in Woody's decision to fire Robert Saleh after 5 games in the first place. So this should not be a surprise that Douglas is gone. You could say it's a little surprising they didn't just wait till the end of the year, but why bother? You knew the guy was gone. We joked on the show he was asleep in his office half the time. Did Joe even know the Jets lost on Sunday? I mean, come on. Joe Douglas had to go, whether it's now or at the end of the year, it doesn't matter. Here's why it does matter and why it's the right move to do this now. You can get a head start on trying to hire the next GM of this team. You get a head start on identifying candidates for that role. If you knew you were moving on from the guy, you did him a favor by getting rid of him now. He'll be paid the rest of his contract, which is up at the end of the year anyway. Phil Savage will be the interim GM. Savage was the GM of the Browns from 2005 to 2008, so he has some experience in that role. He's been around the league a long time. There's no moves you're making at this point other than making sure you have a kicker, which the Jets did earlier today. They made sure that the kicker, Anders Carlson, who was actually good on Sunday, is now on their active roster, so he'll be the kicker for the next game against the Seahawks after the bye on December 1st. But this move was coming. This regime was getting blown up. It was just a matter of, do they get the last 6 games or are they going to do it now? Saleh's already been gone. Jeff Ulbrich has no chance of being this team's head coach. He's 1-5 since he took over. This team needs a total overhaul. I don't want to call it a rebuild because in the past when the Jets have done this, they did need to rebuild from the standpoint of there wasn't a lot of talent on the team. There wasn't a good infrastructure in place of players. That's not the case here. This team does have some good players, and Douglas's legacy is very complicated. Joe Douglas has done a lot of good things in addition to some things that are obviously horrendous moves, catastrophic moves. He's better than Mike McCagden and John Izek, although if you look at the winning percentage, it's worse than those guys by a little bit. But it's a complicated resume. Because on one hand, he's responsible for the greatest draft this franchise quite possibly has ever had. On the other hand, he's responsible for one of the worst head coaches this franchise has had in Robert Saleh. And arguably the worst draft pick this franchise has ever made. Certainly the worst quarterback they've ever drafted in Zach Wilson. And that's really what, unfortunately, is going to define the Joe Douglas tenure. We could talk about the quote-unquote Hail Mary move to go bring in Aaron Rodgers. That was the right move. It hasn't worked. That was the right move. There was no other move to make. Derek Carr stinks. Jimmy Garoppolo stinks. The Jets had no choice but to try and bring in Rodgers. He was the best available option by far when they made that deal. But the reason why they had to trade for Aaron Rodgers was because they missed on Zach Wilson. Because they chose to draft him rather than the alternative of either someone else, which, let's be fair, it's not like there were all these great quarterbacks after Zach. Trey Lance is a bust. Justin Fields, to this point, is a bust. Mac Jones is a bust. Those are the other guys in the first round. But the mistake in hindsight was not trading out of number 2 and sticking with Darnold for another year and then figuring it out from there. That's a long time ago already. And that's not the only bad move this general manager has made. We could go through some of the free agent signings. Carl Lawson, Corey Davis. There's a lot of bad ones. We could go through some of the poor decisions that were made this past offseason, like decimating this defensive line. Getting rid of JFM for nothing. Who's ever at fault for the Hassan Reddick situation? The Jets have to garner some of the blame. You let Huff go and brought in Reddick to replace him, and Reddick didn't start playing for you until halfway through the year when the season was essentially over and has not been right since he's been back. Allowing Greg Zuerlein to ruin this season after not getting a legit backup last year, making the same mistake twice. Catastrophic mistake. So while Douglas is responsible for some great draft picks, right? Sauce, Garrett Wilson, Brees, Jermaine Johnson, Michael Carter, AVT, Joe Tippmann. We'll see what Olu Fashanu ends up being. I think he's going to be good, but throw Will McDonald in there. He's a really good player. Right? There's been some stars to really good players this general manager has drafted. It is not all bad. He's not John Izek picking players. Outside of Quinnen Williams, he's not Mike McCagnon picking players. But there was too much bad, like Mekhi Becton and Zach Wilson and Denzel Mims and Elijah Moore, to overcome some of the good. So it is a complicated resume and legacy that Douglas leaves behind, but ultimately it's a legacy that's a failed one. Just like it was failed for Izek, just like it was failed for McCagnon. The bottom line is Joe Douglas finishes with a 30-64 record and 0 playoff appearances. Since Joe Douglas has been the Jets general manager, June of 2019, every team but one in the NFL has won at least 8 games. The Jets will max out in the Douglas tenure with 7 wins, which they did twice, last year and in 2022, and Douglas's first year when it wasn't his team with Gase, when they went 7-9. So by winning percentage, that was actually the best year, and it wasn't even his team. He got there in June that year. So while there is some good, you cannot overcome the record. This was the all-in year. He got the mulligan last year because Aaron Rodgers got hurt on play 4. He wasn't getting a mulligan this year. Saleh already paid his price, and Douglas had to pay his. But this is the right move to do it now. Get started on your process to hire a general manager. Right now, the Jets are the only team that's searching for a GM officially. Other teams are going to be searching for coaches. There's some thought that there's only a few GM jobs that are actually going to open up. And here's the biggest question I have by making this move now if you're Woody Johnson. Who is helping Woody identify candidates to speak to? There needs to be football people helping Woody Johnson. And it can't be Peyton Manning calling good old Woody, telling him who we should hire. Like what happened with Christopher when he hired Adam Gase. It shouldn't be Charlie Casserly and Ron Wolf who came together to recommend Mike McCagnon and Todd Bowles. Who are the football people that are going to be helping the Johnson family make this hire? Because it's not just Woody. If we assume Woody's going to be taking an ambassadorship position with the Trump administration, that means that Christopher Johnson will be the day-to-day owner. So who are the people in the room that are asking the right questions to these candidates? Who are the people that are coming up with a list that are assisting Woody Johnson with this massive, massive decision? Because he's proven he can't do it by himself. And it just needs to get done right. You look at the Commanders, for example. They brought in Bob Myers, who's the old Warriors general manager, who built the dynasty. And they brought in Rick Spielman, who was the GM of the Vikings for many years. They were hired as consultants to help Josh Harris, the owner of the Washington Commies, hire the GM and the coach, which led them to Adam Peters and Dan Quinn. So who's helping Woody Johnson and Christopher Johnson with these hires? If it's just them, how could you have a whole lot of faith in them getting it right? And even if it's not just them, until the Jets show you that they got it right, it is tough to sit here and believe it. The bottom line, though, is this. This move was coming, and it's the right move to do it now. Why wait? Why wait? You're trying to get the right people. Start the process before every other team in the league. This GM, I should say, didn't have a contract beyond this year. Get it done now. There really is always something with this team, huh? All in year, highest expectations since 2010, 2011. And it's not even Thanksgiving, and they don't have a GM, and they don't have a head coach right now. It really is something. But we knew this was coming. It was just a matter of, are they going to let Douglas finish out the final 6 games of the contract or put him out his misery now? I mean, if you heard Joe Douglas talk the day of that presser, that guy was a dead GM walking. And then we learned he had no input on Saleh being fired. And then magically Reddick and that situation gets done. That was the owner trying to step in, trying to salvage the year. It didn't work. Woody pressed every button he could push. It wasn't fixable. And let's not forget, if you all remember last offseason, following the 7-10 season, Rex Hogan, who was Joe Douglas's assistant general manager, was fired. They never replaced his position. Woody didn't want to spend money adding to this front office, knowing that this was the year they either win or he's cleaning house. You see why? So this was a move that had to happen. But the writing's been on the wall for a while. Once the season became what it was, they had no choice. I mean, he's 30-64. And at some point, the record has to matter. And we could argue it should have mattered last year, but then Rodgers got hurt 4 plays in. Last year, to me, was the year, hey, this regime's got to win or there's going to be changes. And they finished 7-10, but Rodgers got hurt on the 4th play of the year. They got mulligans. And I thought Joe Douglas built a very good football team this year. I still think there's a lot of talent on this team, but unfortunately, while there is talent on this team, there's no leadership, and that falls on the general manager. And who hired Robert Saleh? This GM did. And if you were going to somehow keep Joe Douglas because you believed in the talent, my question to you nut jobs out there who support that idea would be this. What has he done to earn the opportunity to hire another leader, hire another coach, when his first coaching hire didn't work and he missed on quarterback with Zach Wilson? And he seemingly, not all his fault, he missed on the Aaron Rodgers trade. That was the Hail Mary to fix it. Didn't work. You know, Jason Light got lucky. Tom Brady was still Tom Brady. He went down to Tampa. He was able to survive missing on Jameis Winston. Douglas couldn't. There was always a high risk involved with bringing in Rodgers, but the reason why they had to bring in Aaron Rodgers is because this guy took Zach Wilson. And once again, you see it on the screen. 30-64 final record, 0 playoff appearances. Trent Baalke has been the Jaguars GM for 6 years. Same exact record. Difference? Made the playoffs in one of those years. By accident, you could stumble into the playoffs. The Jags made the playoffs and won a playoff game a couple of seasons ago. They're about to have the first pick in the draft again this year for the 3rd time in like 5 seasons. Every other team in the league found some success. Even by accident, the Giants 2 years ago with Daniel Jones won a playoff game. You look at the Joe Douglas historic draft class of 2022. Jets were picking 4th that year. Number 1 that year was Jacksonville. They've won a playoff game already since. Number 2 that year was the Houston Texans. They've won a playoff game and a divisional, by the way, since. And probably will again this year. Or excuse me, number 2 that year was actually the Detroit Lions. I don't need to tell you guys about them. We're going to talk about them coming up because they have a GM candidate I'm interested in and a head coaching candidate, 2 of them. But the Lions have won, obviously, multiple playoff games and are Super Bowl favorites this year. They were picking 2nd that year, 2 spots ahead of the Jets. 3 was the Texans. You heard what I just said about them. 4 was the Jets, and 5 was the Giants. Who, as bad as they've been, at least they gave their fans a playoff season 2 years ago before going back to being what they've been since their last Super Bowl victory in 2011. So ultimately, while Douglas has clearly done some good, I want to make it clear this team does have talent on it. It wasn't enough to overcome the catastrophic mistakes along the way. While the drafting was good and the trades were good, the Jamal Adams trade is one of the best moves any GM has ever made. Getting 2 first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick for a box safety who can't cover. who was more of a liability in pass coverage than Ryan Gosling was in Remember the Titans. That was a great move. It got you Garrett Wilson and ABT. It wasn't enough to overcome the mistakes. Taking Mekhi Becton over Tristan Wirfs was a risk at the time. It has backfired in spectacular fashion. And because they missed on Becton, it also kind of set off a chain reaction of trying to make moves to salvage the left tackle spot. It led you to Dwayne Brown, who was shot last year. It led you this offseason to Tyron Smith. And while at the time I thought that was a good move, he was a second-team All-Pro last year. My concern was durability, not his ability. It hasn't worked. Just like the Rodgers move hasn't worked, but that's all because they missed on Wilson. The left tackle situation stems from missing on Mekhi Becton, his first ever draft pick. He was here a long time. All right, 6 years as a GM and not even sniffing a winning season is hard to do, folks. By accident, you could win some games and go 9-8 one year. So it is unfortunate. And while there have been some good moves by Joe, it was impossible to justify keeping him going forward. So I think it's the right move to do it now. Why wait? I mean, this guy was barely the GM anymore anyway. Woody didn't even consult him on firing the head coach he hired. What does that tell you? Woody stepped in on the Hassan Reddick deal. They never replaced the assistant GM that they fired last year, and Rex Hogan, who was Douglas's right-hand guy. So you start the process of hiring the right football people. It's the right move. But now, where we go from here, that's the question. This was expected. We knew this was coming. The question is, what happens now? And my big thing going forward is, who is helping this ownership group hire the right people? Who's in the interviews? You know, who's in the room when they're talking to these candidates? So they don't get duped into thinking Adam Gase is coaching football to where it's going. Imagine saying that out loud. That's what this owner said. So who's helping them hire the right people? Because I'm sick of losing. I'm sick of everyone laughing at the Jets. The Jets being the butt of every goddamn joke. I'm sick of it. Get it right. Who's helping these owners get it right? That's all we care about. Gary Myers suggested Curtis Martin, who's been trying to get into NFL ownership for years. Close with Goodell. Always at games. Always sitting in suites, if you notice on TV, next to Roger Goodell. That's a name I like. Guy who's won before. Knows the history of the Jets. Is in the Hall of Fame for crying out loud. He's not the GM. He's not the coach. But I bet you could ask the right questions in an interview. I bet you could help identify what a winner looks like. That's a good name. That's an example. Who's helping this ownership group? Because the difference is, this is not a full-on rebuild. This should be a retool. All right, the Commanders' rebuild lasted 1 year. The Texans' rebuild was 1 year. It doesn't take 6 years. This myth that Douglas came in, it was going to take forever for them to get it right, is nonsense. Nonsense, I tell you. If you get the right coaching staff in here and competent quarterback play, you're looking at the AFC right now. You can compete for a wild card spot the next year. The Texans did it in 1 year. The Lions did it in 2. They went from 8-9 year 1 with Dan Campbell to in the playoffs the next year. You see this with all these other teams, yet the Jets seemingly are the only team that can't figure it out. That has to change. And unlike other times the Jets have had GM openings, there is talent on this team. There are building blocks on this team, contrary to what a lot of people think. Not many jobs have 4/5 of the offensive line already in place for next year, including young, ascending players at left tackle, center, and right guard. Not many teams with openings have a player on the outside as good as Garrett Wilson or a running back as good as Breece Hall. Not many teams with openings have a defensive line with an all-pro defensive tackle, a Pro Bowl edge rusher coming back next year in Jermaine Johnson, and a soon-to-be-announced Pro Bowler this year in Will McDonald. Not many teams with openings have a linebacker as good as Quincy Williams, or a secondary that has Michael Carter and Sauce Gardner in it. And I understand Sauce has not been what we thought. He's had a down year. You can't tell me with better coaching he can't get back to being a very good player for this team. I don't buy it. So That's a testament to the roster Douglas did build. This team is not completely bereft of talent like it was when he first got here. There's names on this team, good players. That's why you got to get it right with the people you bring in, because it doesn't need to take 3, 4, 5. How many more years are we going to wait? I'm not waiting anymore. The last time this team played in a playoff game, Barack Obama was in his first term in office. I'm sick of it. It's enough. Every other team in the league can find a way to magically have a playoff season, and they just can't sniff a winning record. It's enough. Get the right people in here, and it could change. But that's the only way it changes. People say, Woody's the worst owner, this or that. He's obviously not a good owner. The record's the record. But this is also the same owner that from 2000 to 2016, they never had back-to-back losing seasons. It's also the same owner who went to the playoffs 6 times in his tenure, including 2 straight conference championship appearances with Mark Sanchez as the quarterback. I'm a diehard Knicks fan. James Dolan's not magically this great owner. He just finally hired Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau, who have resurrected the franchise. A good owner hires the right people and stays out of the way. So my question to Woody Johnson and Christopher Johnson is, who's helping you, man? Who's helping you? It's okay to ask for help. And there's some great people out there who can help you. That's the bottom line. Comments, questions, your super chats will cut the line. Hit the like button if you're just tuning in. If you're a Jet fan and you're not subscribed yet to the channel, I don't know what you're waiting for. We talk Jets 365 on the show twice a day, Monday through Friday, for hours at a time. You won't find a Jet channel that puts out more content than this one. Here we go. Some super chats that we get into your calls, reacting to the news of the day. Joe Douglas, see ya. Tyrone writes in, Jesus, what a disaster. 2024 added to the misery. You know what? Do it now. Clean break. Move on. Why wait? Honestly, if I'm Joe Douglas, I'm relieved. All right? I don't have to pretend like I'm still the GM of this team when I haven't been in months. Rockin' Rant says, it's not that Woody fired Joe, it's that he did it now. None of the best candidates for GM or head coach are coming to an organization run like this. Thoughts to the contrary are delusional. Sorry, that's truth. See, I guess you forget when the Giants did the same exact thing, or plenty of teams did the same exact thing at the end of their tenures with GMs and coaches. What? You think that the Jets firing Joe Douglas now prevents a good candidate from coming here? It has nothing to do with it. In fact, it gives the Jets a leg up over other teams. They can start talking to candidates because they've already made their mind. If you're Woody and you've already made your mind, this guy's not coming back, why keep him? That's a silly comment, Rock and Rant, but I appreciate your $10. Goes to tonight's Chipotle dinner. Paul writes in with a super chat. Who didn't see this coming? We need an identity. If you didn't see this coming, you're probably blind. Is your name Stevie Wonder if you didn't see this coming? Barney writes in, every Woody move makes us worse, including this. All right, I didn't think we were going to have people that actually were going to somehow defend not firing the GM who's 30 and 64, but welcome to Stupid Town, baby.
Listen to yourself. You sound demented. Just go away, please. I can't stand it anymore.
I can't. AD, get Martin in today. If Curtis Martin is interested, I love the idea that Gary Myers suggested. It doesn't just have to be Curtis Martin, though. Right? I gave you the example the Commanders did. They hired Rick Spielman, who's a former NFL general manager, and they brought in Bob Myers, who was a GM in a different sport, but at least he could identify what winning looks like. I'll give you a name. Thomas Dimitroff is available. GM of a Falcons team that went to the Super Bowl. Made the playoffs many times. Drafted Matt Ryan. Bring him in as a consultant. He's not working for a team right now. Rick Spielman wasn't working for a team either. That's a name. That's a start. Dre writes in, give me Agnew/Rex or Vrabel. Set the standard. Mike Vrabel, if we're talking about coaching candidates, is my number one guy. I need someone with experience. I'm tired of guys learning on the job and learning that, New York's hard to win. Yeah, it is. But I promise you, if you win here, there's no better place. So I need someone who's an ass. I need someone who's got an attitude. Someone who's got the pelts on the wall before. Right? That's what Parcells did. He came here in 97. The team was 1-15. And they went 9-7 in his first year. Coaching matters in this league. It always has. It always will. Paul agrees with what I'm saying. Thank you, Paul. Pat writes in, he's been an Asmaniac for 5 months. There's no benefit of firing JD versus the end of the season. Decisions like this is what makes this organization a joke and will not put us ahead. I completely disagree. Why would you not do it now? He's not under contract for next year. He's 30-64. You think this makes the Jets look bad? What makes the Jets look bad is that they went all in this year and they're 3-8. This has nothing to do with it. There's a footnote in the saga of this season that they ended up firing their coach and GM earlier than when they likely were going to anyway. Because that's the other thing. In hindsight, firing Robert Saleh has not worked. Does anyone really think he wouldn't have been fired at the end of the year anyway? Craig writes in, JD's best move was ridding the beat of Manish Mehta. Now, that is a take I love. That is a unique one right there, Craig. Attaboy. Nick Shine in the house. With Bonesy down and Allen/Gary up, it breaks my heart. JD Truther, Mr. Bonesy's going through it, folks. Wish him well. Rat Diddy says, back up the money truck for Ben Johnson along with Lions assistant GM Ray Agnew. One thing going for the Jets is Ray Agnew Jr. is a current Jet scout. Yeah. Hey, maybe Woody's like, hey, we're going to fire your boss, but does your dad want in on this job? Yeah, you'll stick around. Jerry the Jet also trading Codridge to the Bills. Yeah, I didn't like it at the time. Jerry, fine. That way lower on the list of mistakes this GM made, but sure, throw that in. Paul says it wasn't enough. That's what it comes down to. He didn't win enough. That's it. I don't want to make it seem like Joe Douglas didn't do some good things. The reason why he lasted as long as he did is because he did some good things. That's why it's such a complicated resume. The record sucks, but we can't lie and say there's not good players on this team. There is. There's some really good players on this team. Garrett Wilson, I think, will be the best receiver this franchise has ever had if they don't screw it up and make sure he stays a Jet for his entire career. He'll break every record. Brees is a total game changer. Sauce, until this year, was one of the best young players in the league. Two-time first-team All-Pro at that position. It's never happened before him. Like, there's good players on this team, man. Michael Carter's really good. Will McDonald's really good. Jermaine Johnson's really good. Quincy Williams was a pick off waivers. He's really good. JFM was a really good player. Good move off waivers. The problem was he didn't do enough of the good moves, right? JFM, great move. Why'd you let him go for nothing? Bryce Huff, UDFA, great job by your front office, Joe Douglas. Why'd you let him go? Just keep him. Nanga, what grade would you give JD? I'd give him a C-. It's tough, man. I mean, the record's brutal. So if you go off the record, it's like a D, an F. If you go off the roster, I mean, a C-. I guess a C- is fair. I don't know. It's complicated, man. It's complicated. I don't know. What would you give Joe Douglas? If you hate him, you're going to say it's a D. You're going to say it's an F. But we can't ignore the talent that does exist on this roster. Knob writes in, bye, Joe. Get the step and go lose over 2/3 of your games elsewhere. Smell you later. I mean, it's how a lot of Jet fans feel. I get it. It's how I feel at this point. I thought Douglas deserved this year. I thought he had a good offseason after a disastrous one post-Rodgers trade a year ago. Wasn't good enough. And now he's gone. Zoink says, rise up, Jet fans. Let's go take over one Jets drive. What exactly are you doing while you're there? Showing up and then security throwing you off the property immediately? Let me know how that goes. Call it. Henny writes it. JD and Salah fired. Hackett still has a job. I mean, Hackett is probably just like, man, what am I doing here right now? I mean, he's up in the booth on game day. They don't even show him anymore on TV. You notice that? Since Downing took over, it was like a couple games in a row. They show Hackett up in the coaching box. They don't even do that anymore. Jeremy with a super chat. According to Albert Breer, there's speculation Woody's plugged into social media and listens to the fan base and makes decisions based off some of the fans. ... Joke. Well, if that was the case, then Woody should have listened to me all last year when I screamed, you need a backup besides Zach Wilson going into this year. You need a backup besides Zach Wilson going into this year. You could not start the year with just Zach Wilson backing up Aaron Rodgers. So Woody didn't listen to me if he's listening to fans. C writes in, JD was a dead man walking. This gives us a head start finding a new GM/head coach. We need our young guys to buy back in under new leadership, or they're walking at the first chance. Absolute circus act at one Jets drive. Shake my head. I mean, it was a circus act before today. Like, whether they did this today or fired him at the end of the year, like, it doesn't matter, folks. I don't know why people care so much it happened now. It's better it happened now. Why would you wait? He was gone at the end of the year. Do you people understand that? They were 3-8. He got to finish out a 6-year contract almost with a 30-64 record. They saved him. Let's say the Jets lost out, which I guess is on the table. He would have finished 30-70. Super captain, I look forward to an offseason of speculation and hope just to be forced to watch a sub-500 team again. Jesus Christ, man, F this. Hey, I get it. All I'm going to tell you is I did 6 years in Houston on ESPN Houston. It was worse for them when they finally got it right. Way worse. All right, their GM was a guy with no front office experience who was the former character coach of the Patriots, the team chaplain. That's who was running their football operation. I mean, the Jets have a chance with a decently talented roster to bring in some people who might be good. And if they're good, you can win. If they're not, you won't. Simple as that. Knob says, as a 25-year resident of Atlanta, I can assure you we don't want Dimitroff. He ain't all that. I didn't say I'd make him the GM. I said just to be in the room to help consult with the candidates. That's go look at the resume of what's his name with the Commanders, Spielman. He was a consultant they brought in to help hire Adam Peters. My big thing is we could say, oh, great, fire Douglas, fire Saleh. That's what this fan base wanted. Guess what? Who's helping them make these decisions? Because how could you have faith in this ownership group hiring the right football people? They haven't done it. Dixon writes in, I don't mind the move, but I'm worried about this draft class. Seems like another Zach Wilson type of class. No one stands out. Love your work. That's for the next GM to decide. And if there isn't a quarterback they love, then trade out, pick a damn good player. You know, hope Jordan Travis could develop into something. You have a bridge quarterback. Now, the one thing I really haven't done a deep dive into yet is what this means for Aaron Rodgers. I would be very surprised if he's here next year. I think a lot of things would have to happen for Aaron to be back. He would have to play a lot better first off down the stretch. Like it can't be like, we're not sure. It has to be like he finished healthy after this bye week and looks like the Aaron Rodgers of old most weeks. And he'd have to be willing to run a modern offense. Because you're no longer deferring to what Aaron wants. If you're a serious organization, you're not going, hey, Aaron, who do you want to be the next head coach? That's not going to happen here. And by the way, there was a report that came out from Connor Hughes that Aaron is back only contingent on the regime remaining. Well, the regime's now gone. So he ain't going to be here, folks. I'd be very surprised if he is. Is it possible? Yes. I would be stunned if Aaron Rodgers is a Jet next year. I mean, I reserve the right to change my mind based on the next 6 weeks, but I don't see it. Ralphie says, why not use Spielman since the Commanders did? Yeah, no problem with that. See, like good teams, good owners understand what they don't know. Like Woody Johnson understands Q-tips and baby powder. He doesn't understand how to run a football team. I thought it was comical during his press conference after they fired Saleh when he's like, I've been doing this for 25 years. Doing what? You've been mostly losing. You're not a football guy. That's okay. You don't need to be a football guy. James Dolan's not a basketball guy. He finally got the right hires. Adrian says a lot of people are mad JD got fired, but JD didn't do anything during the season when guys went down. Joe Douglas allowed Greg Zuerlein to wreck the season. Good riddance. See ya. I'm sorry. The idea that Joe Douglas didn't deserve to go, get lost. Jet Life, get the Leon Rose of football. Easier said than done. Joseph, thanks for the 99 cents. Big fella, get on the phone with Gruden. Cut Zuerlein today. Gruden as the head coach is intriguing. You don't want him being the GM. And if you notice in the statement here, what does it say? We will begin the process to identify a new GM immediately. That tells me they're hiring the GM first, and then they will hire the next head coach, which I think makes sense. 25, buy JD, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Tough to argue. I mean, look, the record's the record, folks. It has to matter at some point. This was the year it was supposed to matter. They're 3-8. That's it. And so for the final time, possibly on the show, we play this. Joe Douglas hasn't smiled since that video. It's been so bad. Matthias says, besides the Liberty, who will be the next New York team to win a title? Well, the Knicks got a chance. The Rangers are good. I mean, both baseball teams have a shot. The Yankees were just a couple wins away from a title. Eiston says, next, out with Hackett. Get Gruden as head coach. Todd Downing is mid as an OC. Good quarterback coach, though. Down with Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith is not playing again for the Jets. I think Olu's going to remain the starter at left tackle down the stretch here. I know if I own the team, there's no scenario where if Tyron's healthy, he's playing over Olu Fashanu, who I used the 11th pick in the draft on. He's playing. They're 3-8. Get him the reps. NYJ says, rip the Band-Aid off. Sunday's game was horrendous. We can't be consistent on the field. They haven't been consistent all year. They've been consistent at losing. That's the one thing they've done well, finding ways to lose. Ryan with a super chat. Remarkable how fast the season has burst into flames. JD and Salah sucked, but Woody's grubby paws need to stay off the team. Either sell the team or move it to London. I can't do another rebuild. What would moving it to London do for you, Ryan? There'd still be the Jets. It would make it a pain in the ass to watch games in London. That's what it would do. Knob says, remember when JD blew up our D-line for no reason? I do. Remember in real time how I thought it was ridiculous? As did most fans. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We couldn't pay Bryce Huff. Why? And then you could say, oh, well, you know, if Reddick was here from the beginning, he's better. That's true. Well, guess what? Don't trade for a guy who doesn't have a contract. Or how about this? Jadeveon Clowney was in your building. You said you loved him. You let him go to the Panthers for a couple extra million. Are you serious? Aaron, hopeful to get the Lions GM and coach tandem. I mean, if you tell me hiring Ray Agnew as your general manager gets you Ben Johnson, I'm in. In all likelihood, if you're going to hire a coach from the Lions staff, it's not going to be Ben Johnson, though. It's going to be Aaron Glenn. Which, if the Jets didn't have this history of always hiring defensive coaches after they were defensive coordinators, I'd be more open to it. But the only way I'm hiring a defensive coach is someone who's already had previous coaching experience, like Mike Vrabel or Brian Flores or even Rex. Rat says, I just got an email from the Jets. VIP game day experience for the Rams. F off. You should respond with this video.
Excuse me.
That would be my response. Nick Shine writes in, bye week and the Jets are a big media topic. That's all that matters to Jerry Jones Jr. Sick of the discussions being everywhere, but winning. I mean, this is the first step towards hopefully getting a discussion about winning. You weren't winning with Joe Douglas. Robert says, where would Rodgers go? Raiders? I don't know where he'd go. He might have to retire. If he's not willing to learn another offense, he doesn't have any options. No one's running the Hackett offense for him next year. 80s Jock, you owe Nick Wright an apology. For what? For what? He's a hypocrite. Remember, Devontae Adams, when he first requested a trade, someone's going to get a great receiver. Gets traded to the Jets. He's washed all of a sudden. His criticisms of Rodgers don't stem from reality. They stem from the fact that they have nothing to do with football-related issues, so I don't really care. And also, anyone who says, the Jets are going to suck every year, more times than not, you're going to be right. Great. Congrats. Way to play the percentages. I don't know what to tell you. Dre says, funny to me how the same people who wanted to fire everybody clean house are now, oh my God, I can't do another rebuild. Are you kidding? It's over. Well, here's the thing, though. If it's done right, I don't think this is like a true rebuild. Like, You have players here you could be competitive with next year. I don't think you look at this Jets team and go, yep, it's impossible for them to be competing for a playoff spot next year. I really don't think it is. I mean, look at Denver. Look at the Commanders. Look at Houston 2 years ago. Look at the Lions a few years ago. A rebuild doesn't take, in the case of Joe Douglas, 6 years. 5 full off seasons. He had 5 drafts and 5 free agent periods. He had more than enough time. Altoona, Rodgers retires, then moves right into the GM position. Woody strikes again. Well, if that happens, then I got nothing for you, folks.
You know, thinking is overrated.
I would have nothing at that point. Omari writes in, I can't believe Bart and Han and fans are supporting Joe. Did you guys forget Zach was never replaced? We could have made the playoffs last year. If the Knicks could turn it around, so will our Jets. I mean, obviously, I work with both Alan and Bart. I'm not listening to their show right now because I'm doing this. I'd have to hear what they said before I respond. Joe Douglas had to go, folks. He had to go. You're going to let him pick another coach and draft another quarterback based on what? A 30-64 record? He had to go. Suck Dog Official. Jets 2024 in a nutshell. The last scene of The Usual Suspects. But with Aaron Rodgers as Kevin Spacey and Joe B as Chaz Parliamentary, and Bill Belichick as Pete Postlethwaite. I have an admission. I've never seen The Usual Suspects. I apologize. I know it's a classic. I haven't seen it. Kill me. But I appreciate the super chat. Especially in the month of November where the Jets have only played twice and the viewership until this show, boom, much like the Jet season. Hit the like button if you're just tuning in. We're presented by Hugo House today. Hugo House just launched brand new hats. They also launched winter-themed hats. So you can get a Hugo House beanie now available by going to hugohouse.com and using promo code Asman at checkout. Get the hat that I'm wearing. Get the hat that our soon-to-be retired quarterback or new team quarterback wears. hugohouse.com, promo code Asman. Buy one hat. Second hat is 30% off. Shout out to Hugo House for being a part of our show. All right, we're going to get to your calls coming up here. Let me get to these final super chats. Then we get to the calls. JD says, JD with the kicker, what he did with the quarterback. He made the same mistake 2 years in a row. Neglected backup quarterback last year, neglected kicker this year. Wanted to go with Zerline because that was his guy, and it cost him his job. Tyrone, new coaches, GM. Well, at least this last group left some great players. Can we get a GM and coach so they can evaluate and prepare for 25? I hope. You're not going to hire someone quick, though. You're not going to rush. But you could start talking with people and agents of people about candidates you like. And if I'm Woody, I'm hiring consultants to be in the room with me, too. I'll say it again and again. Who's helping them hire the people? You know, you think about what Joe Douglas took over, right? Who were the cornerstone pieces on the team when he got here? Jamal Adams. You cannot name one player on offense who was a cornerstone player. I mean, Robbie Anderson was a nice receiver. That was it. Defensively, Larry Williams was still here. The most overrated player, I think, in football at the time. And, you know, Quentin Williams was going into his second season in the league. C.J. Mosley was here going into the first year of his contract. That's it. Actually, Quentin was a rookie. Quentin was a rookie in 2019. Point is, that's the whole team as far as like good players that were here when Douglas took over. This year, to Douglas's credit, I can name you probably about 8 to 10 players who I think are good to very good, in the case of some great football players that are here. Quentin Williams is great. Garrett Wilson's great. I would tell you Sauce was great. I would say he's still very good. Brees, very good. Some good offensive linemen. Will McDonald, very good. Jermaine Johnson, very good. Michael Carter, very good. There's some players here. The cupboard's not bare. Henny says, got to hire Allen and Gary, guys. They're never wrong. I agree. Bring Gary and Allen in as acting owners, let them make all the decisions so we could tar and feather them as soon as they're wrong on the show. Robert writes in, I just want one Jet player to be upset about anything. Then check out a Garrett Wilson press conference after a game. Steven says, I miss CJ Mosley so much. It really marked the end. It's been a big loss. He's their leader. But it's not an excuse for the defense to be this bad. It's just not. Comments, questions, super chats, cut the line. Let's open up the Gusbuster umbrella hotline right now.
If you go to gusbuster.com, you could purchase the best umbrella in the universe. And you could use the promo code Jake, so you'll get 15% off on any of your umbrellas.
Here we go. All right. Let's say hello to Evan, who's first up. What's up, Evan?
Jake, it's a beautiful day. How you doing?
Joe Douglas is gone, and the rebuild / retool or whatever we're calling it is underway.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I think the fact that he still has defenders kind of shows how bad our history is, I think, as a team. I think the analogy that I was thinking of when I was sitting here on hold was like our John Idzik and Mike McCagnon are kind of like the horrendous girlfriend that just like cheats on you constantly, talks crap to you, like does just horrific things to you. And Joe Douglas was just like an okay girlfriend that just didn't do those things. And we, in our brains, think she's amazing. And it's like, no, she was just like, okay, and she needed like I feel like Joe, in order to do good things, needed like premium draft picks. He couldn't just look at every other team. Look at like the Steelers, TJ Watt gets drafted with like the 30th pick. Lamar gets drafted with like the 30th pick. He doesn't need a top 10 pick to get a good player. And I think we forget that sometimes. Like a good GM rounds out the team with a lot of like under the radar moves, using non-premium capital. Like that's what you need to make a good team. Like if the only things we can really point to are like, oh, he drafted a good corner with the 4th overall pick, like that's probably, like pretty thin. So it sucks. We all wanted it to work out. I think Joe's a good guy in general. Like he seems like it would have been fun for him to be the guy to do it. But I'm excited for the future, man. I think like we got to be optimistic. I know it's easy to be negative. Like you just pointed out, like if you're just negative all the time, you're going to be right most of the time. That's sort of the percentages, but we're fans. It's more fun to be optimistic. So I'm excited about what the future could hold, and I'm hoping for good things.
Yeah, I mean, look, this year's been about as bad as any Jet year ever, but the only way it gets better is if you nail these hires. And that's why this offseason is so important. Good call, Evan, to start us off. You look at Douglas's resume, right? And while he's obviously made some good draft picks, none of them have really been outside the top 40, 45. There's a few here or there, but he's had what, like 1 or 2 hits outside the top 40? In fact, wasn't Joe Tippmann pick 40? Right? I was thinking of Michael Carter and Joe Tippmann as like non-top 40 picks. But Joe Tippmann might have been the 40th pick. 43rd overall. Okay, so he's had like maybe like 1 or 2 hits outside the top 45, if we're being fair. Peter says, Jake, Devontae and Rodgers want Brick to return. And I want to make sweet love to Sydney Sweeney. Who cares? We're just throwing things out there we want. It's not happening. They could say nice things about him. Prop him up on his way out, but it's not going to matter. Bang says, my GM choice is Mike Borgonzi before Washington takes him. Well, Washington is Adam Peters. Why would they be hiring a GM? I don't understand that one. All right, let's get to more of your calls right now. Ladies and gentlemen, we waited a long time to get this guy's thoughts on this move. We knew this day was coming. For possibly the last time, we introduce our next caller with this intro.
The only thing better than all them shoes is Joey D, 'cause he totally rules. Jake, my brother, I'm high as a kite. I love everybody. Damn, this show is crazy.
Sad day, man. Sad day. People aren't going to realize what we had in Joe Douglas until he's gone. You guys, we could talk about the record.
That's a big thing to talk about.
I agree. That's happens when you miss on a coach and the quarterback. You know, it's. I just feel that when everyone talks about Joe and they never talk about any of the positives he did. I mean, when before Joe Douglas, we didn't make trades on draft day. We were never in control during the draft. We don't trade up for superstars. We don't hit on day 3 picks. We don't find talent in the waivers and in after the draft. I mean, when's the last time a GM made a trade during the draft that was like a big move? Joe Douglas on draft day is in control, and everyone, you can't say he's not. He makes trades constantly, and most of the time they're smart moves. Even if it's getting a third for to get Devontae, or he trades up for Tittman, he trades up for Breece Hall, who's a top running back in the NFL, top 5. Garrett Wilson is he could be a franchise Hall of Fame quarterback that we have. That
I get it, but I
get the record.
It's not just the record. His 2 biggest moves, would you agree, were the head coaching hire and the quarterback, 2nd overall in 2021.
And he missed. Yep.
Badly, really bad.
Historically who'd you want, though? Who'd you want instead of Saleh? Like, who'd we want? Like Arthur Smith or Meyer, who came to Jacksonville, or who else was that? I forgot who the Texans hired that year, and they fired him that year. There was nobody. There was nobody to get. I don't even know who we were supposed to pick.
But that's on the GM to find the next guy. I mean, Nick Sirianni was laughed at by Howie Roseman after the first press conference, and they've already been to a Super Bowl, and they're going to be in the playoffs the 3rd year in a row.
Yeah, you got to hit on the quarterback.
Dan Campbell was laughed at by everyone after his press conference. Brad Holmes hired him. Like, at some point, the record has to matter, Bones. This was supposed to be the year it matters. They're 3-8.
It's disgusting.
If they finished 8-9 or 9-8 and missed the playoffs, I think there'd be an argument. Hey, give him another chance with another coach. And the team is clearly good enough, but coaching held him back. We can't say that. He made catastrophic mistakes. Again, he dismantled the defensive line for no good reason. He allowed Greg Zuerlein to ruin the season, in theory, with multiple games of destroying this team from a kicker perspective. What if he was gone and they had the guy they have now, Carlson, they might have 2 more wins and he'd have a job right now.
We just don't know what's going on around the scenes. We just paid Zuerlein. How the hell are you going to cut him? How do you know that?
Because teams do it all the time.
Or how do you know that Saleh signed off on getting rid of GM for Reddick? It's not like Joe Douglas isn't talking to Saleh. They were in lockstep. So Saleh signed off on all the defensive line moves because that's Saleh's thing. I think I'm nervous as a Jets fan because, yes, Lola, I don't have any more. So just daddy's busy. This is important, right? Eat the other chips. I'm just as
what
a
does
Jets
Lola
fan,
think of the state of the Jets right now?
Lola, what do you think of them firing Joe Douglas? She's laughing. So
See, she's smart. She understands that you being emotional over a GM is 30-64. It can't happen right now.
I get the record, but we can't talk. We can't forget about context. Even with the
I tried to provide the context. I didn't kill Douglas. I said it didn't work. He had enough time. He's better than McCagden. He's better than Izzik. I know the record doesn't show it, but my eyes tell me it's true, and I believe that.
From drafting talent and on keeping our cap, making trades. He is in my eyes, he's a top 15 GM in those areas.
But why are we missed our coach. Top 15? He's had 6 years. He's had more than enough time to acquire talent.
He would be a top 5 GM if we had a quarterback. Look at the Texans. You worked for them. Look at how lucky they got. Their GM was gone, and then they hit on the quarterback, and then they brought in a coach that runs a good D, and that's it.
You need some luck along the way, but that doesn't excuse all the other moves. Also, I never worked for the Texans. I want to make it clear. I worked for ESPN. We talked about the Texans.
My bad. But when you watch Joe Douglas live, like during the draft and stuff, I never felt as a Jet fan the past almost 20 years of someone being in control. He drafts someone
because you like
have
a
faith
fat guy in a suit who's on the phone.
No,
like,
because
he looks like
hits,
a Sopranos
man.
character or whatever. Like,
why did nobody else in the NFL want to trade up for Jermaine? Why was it only us on the call waiting to get him?
a couple things. We don't know if other teams were trying, and maybe the Jets had more ammunition and were able to do it. So we don't know. But to your point on Douglas making all these trades, right? One of his big trades was, we were trying to get back into the second round to get Malachi Corley. We started calling up around pick 50. Well, they couldn't get him until the first pick of the third round. They leaked to everyone, he was our fourth highest rated receiver on our board. And the guy couldn't sniff the field all year. And how does that happen? All right, so we can't just say he's great in the draft.
You know
room.
why.
What do you mean?
We let go of Mike Williams, who's an actual talented, proven receiver, because he can't get on the same page with our quarterback, who I love. That's just way too demanding of his receivers. When I listen to Garrett Wilson
who brought in Aaron Rodgers?
I would have still,
right?
And I still believe in Rodgers.
We all were on board with the move. It's not a bad move to bring in Aaron Rodgers, Bonesy, but it hasn't worked. And the reason why they had to make that move in the first place was because he drafted Zach Wilson.
We just for forever, like for the last 20 years since we hit on Revis and maybe David Harris was a good second round guy, we hit on no draft picks. None. We hit on none. No first rounders ever hit. Now
that doesn't mean
we bank on them to hit, Jake. We know they're going to hit. We're like, we draft Garrett. You're confident.
Bo, there's a couple of things. There's more to being a GM than just hitting on first rounders, okay? And also, just because McCagden and Izek sucked at it doesn't mean that the guy after Douglas will be as bad as those guys. You have PTSD from Izek and McCagden. Okay, before Izek and McCagden, I know it ended poorly, but Mike Tannenbaum did hit on some picks. He traded up for Darrelle Revis. They drafted Nick Mangold. They drafted DeBrickashaw Ferguson. They drafted David Harris. They drafted Brad Smith. You get the point. But that's what I'm saying to you. It doesn't mean that Douglas is gone, that all of a sudden they're never going to hit on a first-round pick again. That's a loser's mentality if you want to keep a GM who's 30-64 because he's made some good moves over a 6-year span. I would hope he would make some good moves over a 6-year span.
He's 50% in the first round. We were less than 10% over 20 years. He's
okay.
Listen to that fact. He's over 50%.
One of the misses was quarterback, and it was one of the bigger busts of all time. And the other miss was left tackle, and they're still reeling from that. Hopefully, they finally figured it out with Olu.
I agree with the left tackle, but that was still for a different regime. He drafted Becton to run up the middle without who was the running back who kept Frank Gore, the Gase year. He drafted for Gase to run up the middle.
A couple things. One, that's not why he drafted Becton. But two, if that's true, do you realize how stupid that makes Joe Douglas if he used the 11th overall pick on a left tackle so 78-year-old Frank Gore could run up the middle?
I was just making a joke. But I'm just saying, he drafted Becton for a different regime.
It's
so that
over,
first draft was.
It's over.
It is over. I'm just nervous, man. I have no faith. I have no faith in Woody. Woody, look what Woody did to us this year, right? What, Lola? All right, it's hot. Here, you want something to drink? She's some water.
She's nervous. You're making her scared about the Jets' future. Lola, it's okay. They're gonna hire good football people. I have a good feeling.
I don't have a drink. Oh well. All right, guys. Well, my daughter's not gonna let me finish doing this.
Anything you'd like to say on behalf of Joe Douglas? A eulogy of some sort?
Yes, I will. Yeah, let's. I am very upset, Joe Douglas. I will still love you forever. My dog's name is Rex, and once he passes away, I'm buying a chinchilla, and I'm naming it JD, just in memory of you, big boy. Look at Lola crying.
Hang in there,
This is life. I still have no faith in you, Woody Johnson, but Joe Douglas, you did a lot for us. You gave us a lot of talent on this roster. You're leaving us with a lot of talent, but I wonder what the next regime is going to do with it, because it always happens like that. You come in, you want to trade your big pieces, and it's a sad day over here at the Bonesy family house where, I don't know, man. I knew it was over when I saw you live on that interview. You looked more defeated than us Jet fans, and God, we suck. Jets suck. We suck. It's over, guys. I'm checking out. Here comes my wife up the driveway. I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm going to have to tell her. She already texted me, "Are you alive?" And I said, "I'm hanging on, baby. I'm hanging on." Lola, what do you got? What do you want to say to? What do you want to say to our family? Speak to the family. Just can you give us a Jets chant? Maybe that'll make us feel better. Oh, come on, that was Cats. Give us a good one. All right.
Bones.
All right,
hang
guys.
in there. This is
Bonesy
for you, all right?
signing out.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bonesy.
The only thing better than Alden shoes is Joey D. Cozy totally rules. Jake, my brother, I'm high as a kite. I love everybody. Damn, this show is crazy.
Hit the like button if you're tuning in. I mean, if you can't like the video after seeing Bonesy's adorable daughter, I don't know when you're over like the video. More importantly, if you're one of the 1,300 people watching live, please subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way. We had over 40,000 a couple weeks ago. We have the largest Jet channel on the planet, and I want to keep growing it. We'll be covering this team, good or bad, and it's been mostly bad every step of the way. All right, let's get to more of your calls right now. A lot of people on the line. Let's get to this guy.
Allen alert, fraud alert, curmudgeon alert, Allen alert. Nobody likes this shitbag.
That was hilarious and pathetic all in one. Oh my God, poor guy. Let me ask Bonesy a question before I make my comment. Bonesy, if your kid came home with a report card and there was 1 A, 2 D's, and 2 F's, would you say, "You know what, my kid got an A. I'm so proud of him"? That's pretty much what he's saying. The guy should have got fired. 34 games under 500, it's enough. But I'm excited to meet Bonesy in person and just laugh in his face, okay? 2 comments. I cannot believe they allowed this GM to be here through the trade deadline. It's mind-boggling. They had guys they could have traded, and they allowed him to get through it. And now they have DJ Reed, who they're going to let walk for nothing. And they got Hassan Reddick, who they're going to let walk for nothing. That bothers me, okay? As far as the next step is concerned, I'm looking at the Lions, and I'm looking at 5 guys in that organization. John Dorsey, Ray Agnew, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, and Tanner Engstrand. Do I think they have a chance to get Ben Johnson? I do not. But if they can hire an Agnew, and you know what? I don't want the defensive coach, but if Aaron Glenn is able to bring in an Engstrand with him, who's been with Ben Johnson for 5 years, that would satisfy me, honestly. You got to get somebody from a winning organization. I agree with you. I think Woody is in a bind because I don't know who Woody's going to go to as far as a guy outside the organization to bring in some sort of talent. Please don't call Peyton Manning anymore, okay? Enough with that. And no more Charlie Casserly. Just bring in a guy who has experience. I like the Thomas Dimitrov call. Just you have to bring somebody in here who has experience, and then they can decide the decision for him. Woody cannot make the decision. I have no problem with the firing of Douglas. I thought it would happen before the end of the season. I told you that a couple of weeks ago. I'm disappointed it did not happen before the deadline. But for anybody who thinks that Joe Douglas deserved to still be here, they're 30-64. And to a guy like Dre, who said, "Oh, GM should not be judged by wins and losses," you again look like a fool, okay? This GM, as you said on the last time he spoke, he was dead man walking. He should have been fired weeks ago. He should have been fired a couple of weeks after Sala got fired, because as you could tell, I don't think he had any decision in that firing. So they
no, but as long as they were still in it, right? He wasn't going to be fired. Once they lost these last 2, it was over.
But the idea that you allowed him to, you know what? I understand. Unfortunately, that win against Houston actually became a deterrent for us, because if they would have lost that Houston game, more guys would have been dealt. I mean, DJ would have been dealt.
I mean, they traded Mike Williams. You weren't getting anything for Reddick. They traded Mike Williams anyway and got a 5th, ends up being
I
the right
think you
move.
could have gotten more. I think you could have got a couple of picks for Reed. The idea
Maybe,
they're
but
gonna
I don't think you're getting much for him. You're probably getting a fifth for DJ Reed too. He's a free agent.
I think you would have got a little bit more than that. But again, this
like
is
what,
a
a
good
fourth?
day.
You're not getting a third for him.
You might have gotten a fourth, a third. You might have, and that's a
All right,
big
so
asset.
All right, so for 1 4th-round pick, like, okay, the win cost him that. It is what it is.
But again, this is not a forward-thinking organization. As you said, Salah should have never been brought back this year, and Douglas should have been fired a while ago. And unfortunately, this organization is in a bind. I disagree with you on one point. Do you think this is a retooling? It's hard to be retooling when you don't know who the quarterback is going forward. That's the problem. So
Well,
I don't agree
it
with.
could be like what the Bucks did right after Brady left. Like they brought in they thought it was a stopgap in Baker. It ended up being their guy, and they've remained competitive and have made the playoffs since. Like I don't know what the future is. I do know that this needed to happen, and it's actually being proactive doing it now rather than just waiting till the end of the year.
Now let me ask you one final question. Do you think that they should tank for the rest of the year? Honestly,
I don't think they need to try to tank. They're just not good.
Okay. So you would not mind a 3-14 season and maybe a top 3 pick.
I'm still rooting for wins because I don't see the benefit of being that bad again. And then more players are going to be unhappy and maybe request a trade. I think it does a lot of harm if like Garrett Wilson's on a team that wins 3 games. Like, I don't think that's necessarily good. If it happens, I'll deal with it, but I'm still rooting for wins. I'd like them to beat the Dolphins. I'd like them to beat the Bills. It'd be nice to stick it to them.
And a benefit of a move like this, and I agree with you, I think we've seen the last of Aaron Rodgers. He might play the last 6 games this year, but there's absolutely no chance they bring him back. There's just none. And now this basically cements it. I just don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, which is probably the right move given where this team is at. The only way I could see Rodgers back is if he looks a lot better these final 6. And not like a little better where it's like you have to bring him back because he's clearly the best option you have. Not like, I don't know. You know, if he's just a journeyman guy or, you know, if he's Joe Flacco at this stage of his career, like he's got to play a lot better. And then the next regime has to want to have is going to want to have Rodgers for a year and then have a succession plan at quarterback. There's just too many things that have to happen. I don't see it. I think Aaron's gone. It hasn't worked. I don't blame him for not working. I think he tried. I think Father Time's undefeated, and I think that injury last year took a lot out of him, clearly. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to skip ahead to the membership parade that just occurred. We'll get back to the Super Chats in a second. But Board Fat has come through for the people, dropping a 10 spot of channel memberships.
I hate this team. I hate them. I hate them.
10 names will be read right now, courtesy of Board Fat, who is both bored and fat, but he's also rich. James Napoleon, BHOS, Judge Genna, Thynic, Raider Mac, Orb, Jet Fan, 051. You all are officially Asmaniacs. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Will anyone else gift during the show? If so, we will shout you out. Thanks for supporting the channel. It goes a tremendously long way. This one is from Dre, who says, at Bang Mateo, call in. Put your money where your mouth is. Or is it because you don't have any? Need me to send you some? Or do you need me to give you a job so you can move out of your mom's basement? Nothing I enjoy more than Dre spending $10 to chirp another listener. Dre, thank you. Sears says, I've developed Stockholm syndrome from this team. I get it. Kyle says, I like JD a lot. It didn't work out. Winning's hard. Next victim. Yeah. The idea that Joe Douglas didn't do some good things here is not fair. He did. They were not good enough to overcome the bad. Citybert, what's the cap impact if we cut AR or don't bring him back? Here's why I think Rodgers is gone. He's no longer playing well enough to justify what would happen if you keep him another year. So if Rodgers is gone next year, let's assume they do everything post June 1st because it saves the most amount of cap. It's $49 million in dead cap, or they could spread it out, $14 million next year, $35 million the following. If you keep Rodgers next year, you're dealing with a $63 million dead cap charge in 2026, or $21 million dead cap in 26, and $42 million in 27. You're 3-8. If Rodgers is just viewed as a bridge, couldn't Tyrod be the bridge next year or someone like that? right? It's sad, but that's the money comes into play when you talk about the cap. Like in a perfect world, you might argue Rodgers is definitely the best option for next year if you draft the quarterback and that guy sits and you have Rodgers, rookie, and Jordan Travis as the quarterback room. But the longer you keep Rodgers, the greater the cap ramifications are down the line. And if he's only here for 1 year and you know you're not winning next year, right? Like maybe you're competing for a playoff spot, but probably not. I don't know. It depends on the direction of the team. I don't think it makes sense. It might make sense you just do it all this offseason. Or spread it out over 2 and still field a very competitive team next year. Jeff says you can't let JD take another shot at hiring another head coach and drafting a quarterback in the first round. Most GMs don't last this long after missing on both. Agreed. Robert says, let Fireman Ed be GM. At least he cares. Is that the bar? You got to care about your job? Dano, Bonesy's scared. So am I, but it's always darkest before dawn. Yeah, we said that last year when Aaron got hurt, and somehow it's become darker. C writes in, Alan, I know what you're getting at. Who's coming in before the deadline to make all those trades? I don't see look, the Texan win. Is DJ Reed on this team if they lose that game? Probably not. I disagree with Alan. I think at best you're getting a 4th for DJ Reed. It's a free agent after the year. Marcus Lattimore went for a 3rd and a 4th. He signed for 2 more years after this year. And he's younger. You got a 5th for Mike Williams. I really don't know who else you could have traded. Nick writes in, I'm glad they did it early. They could get a jump on a new GM. More time to look for our next head coach. Ben Johnson, Cliff Kingsbury, new staff, and prep the draft. Yeah. Sears, someone has to say it. I'd run with Daniel Jones next year before running it back with Rodgers. I don't know if I go that far. That to me is a little extreme. More of your calls right now. The Hamburger's next. Hey, Hamburger.
Hey, what's up, Jake?
What's up, Hamburger?
Not much, man. I feel a lot better now. I can tell you that. I was nervous that they wouldn't do anything and that there was a possibility he was going to be back, but this makes me feel a lot better. Yeah, I feel a lot better about the future. It is what it is. We didn't make the last 2 picks on GMs wasn't that great, but you got to keep trying, man.
Maybe Woody was listening to your call earlier when you were worried about Douglas being back.
I hope so. Because I don't think he listens to the fans that much. But if it's an overwhelming in the media and everybody's saying, I think he listens to that in that regard a little bit. I think it probably weighs on some of his decisions. But listen, Bonesy, man, I'm sorry, but it had to be done. Everything that led to where we are now is due to Joe Douglas, his moves. Robert Saleh should have been gone a long time ago. It shouldn't take 6 years to be worse, because that's where we are now. We're worse. We've gotten nowhere. We've 3 wins. So for us moving on, I'm going to do a shot this afternoon for us to the future of the Jets. Not so heavy, but to the future of the Jets. Hopefully Woody gets the right amount of people around him that can help him make the proper decisions, and we can move this franchise forward and get to the playoffs and one day hopefully get to the Super Bowl. Don't look too bleak, everybody. There's good things around the corner, hopefully. All right? Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Hamburger. One day, I hope to see a playoff game again. Wouldn't that be nice? Forget the Super Bowl. Playoffs. Unreal. Hey, if you're one of the 1,200 people watching right now, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Please consider joining the Patreon to connect with your fellow Jet fans, get into our Discord, which you gain access to when you become a Patreon member, and much more. All right, more of your calls right now. Let's say hello to Sonny on Long Island. Sonny, you're next up. Turn your camera on. What do you got for us? Sonny's in the shower, it sounds like. Thanks for the time, Sonny. From Sonny to Ted. Hey, Ted.
You want me to follow that one, Jake? Thanks for letting me follow that one. Let me ask you a question. So I lost my train of thought after that one. Evan Roberts, I was listening to Joe Beningo on the fan replay of it when he was ranting about Rodgers. Evan Roberts brought up something I thought it was interesting. He said, what if we end up like in the 7 to 10 range in the draft? We could dangle Sauce Gardner in a trade to move up to like Jacksonville or somebody if we like a quarterback. Is that something you would entertain depending on who is the head coach and who's the GM? Because you could do it multiple ways. If you're going to get John Gruden, John Gruden is not a quarterback developer. You're not going to draft a top 5 quarterback with Gruden. There's no way. His quarterbacks are Rich Gannon and Brad Johnson. That's what he likes. He likes guys that can handle the stresses of his offense. So what route are we taking is the question. Would you be willing to move up by dangling somebody like a Sauce Gardner if you really believe in a quarterback and depending on your coaches?
You consider all options, but I don't know if I'm trying to trade away Sauce, honestly. I don't think I would do that. Also, are you wearing the Bucs sweatshirt again, Ted?
Yeah, it's hot here.
What are we doing here?
Come on, Bobby's a Giant fan. I could wear this. I had to go into the hood today, man. I had to protect myself.
What are you, Chiefs fan? You going into the hood?
Well, I had to go into a questionable area, so I figured I have to wear my Bucs gear I can't wear my Jets gear. I don't want to be harassed. Somebody doesn't like the Jets. Or somebody come up to me and abuse me about Rodgers. I didn't feel like hearing anything today. So Jake, if we are going to go the young, coordinator route and you really want to draft a quarterback and we're in the 10 range, what do we do then? We're kind of in no man's land unless we really, can get one in the second round. I don't know.
I mean, we don't even know who the top quarterbacks necessarily are yet. There's always seemingly more than it appears, right? I mean, look how many guys went last year in the first round. That wasn't expected at this time a year ago.
Yeah. Hey, also, Jake, with the success of the guy from the Steelers, what's his name, the coach? I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, Tomlin. If we do bring in an Aaron Glenn, you still can win that way in the NFL, obviously. If you have a good defense, great defense, and a running game, that's how you beat the Chiefs. That's how you beat some of these high flyers, right? So do you prefer a defensive, type guy like Aaron Glenn, depending on the OC, or you want to go offense and take a chance with a young coordinator? Another thing too, if you take a young coordinator, Jake, like Salah, for example, you take a coordinator, now all of a sudden he's a GM. He's not a DC
he's a GM anymore. You mean he's a head coach?
I'm sorry. He's a head coach. Sorry.
Ted, I can't get by your Bucs sweatshirt. It's just throwing me for a loop here. Look, unless they're hiring Ben Johnson, who's considered like the top offensive-minded candidate available, this next coaching hire to me should be someone who's had success coaching before. I'm sick of these guys being first-time coaches, vast majority of them in the Jet history having defensive backgrounds and learning on the job. They got to get this hire right. That's why Mike Vrabel is my number one. And he might be a defensive-minded coach originally, but he's a head coach. And guess what? Mike Vrabel hired 2 offensive coordinators who then went on to be head coaches. So he can identify good offensive coaches. So that's why he's my number one. Aaron Glenn, I like. I just don't want to hire another defensive-minded coach. Aaron Glenn was a great Jet. I think he would love this job too. And if you told me they got Ray Agnew with Aaron Glenn, would I be excited? Like, I wouldn't hate it. I don't know. I would prefer a candidate that is not a guy who has a defensive background. Or someone who's done it before. Vrabel, Flores. I'd interview Cliff. Some guys are better second time around. He made the playoffs in Arizona. Didn't end right, but Kyler got hurt that last year. Maybe he's learned a lot, right? He's now on Campbell's staff. He's doing a great job with Jaden Daniels. Maybe Cliff deserves another opportunity. Interview him. He's got experience. Runs an innovative offense. C says, if you're Garrett Wilson, are you blindly signing the extension this offseason before playing with a new head coach and GM? I mean, guys want the financial security. I mean, Garrett Wilson's under contract for another 2 years with the franchise tag. Next year, final year of his rookie deal, and the 5th-year option. Really, more than that because they have the tag, too. So they don't have to do anything. I would sign him early, though. It sends the right message. Because he probably will request a trade if you don't sign him. And he's like, who's my quarterback? What's going on? Like, this is what happens. So I would sign him. Ricardo says, we don't make it to at least the AFC championship game. You can have McDermott. And who would the Bills hire at that point, Ricardo? Sean McDermott's a very good coach, though. Let's be real. Hennessy says, Allen's big plan, bring someone from a winning team. Wasn't solid from San Fran and Douglas from Baltimore. Plan B, bring in anyone from Detroit. Got it. Hennessy's disdain for Allen, I love. Love it. Speaking of people we absolutely disdain in the chat, SEAL Team 75, assemble.
The Clapping Seals, they're alive and well in the chat.
Hey, Gary.
Oh, hey, what's up, Jake? A couple of things. I just wonder why he wasn't traded. Alan brought this up too. Why he wasn't fired before? If his seat was that hot, why wouldn't they? Alan, I'm not going to take a bow. I'm not going to celebrate a man being fired. I'm just not going to celebrate that. He's lost his livelihood. I'm not going to celebrate that, Alan. Why wouldn't they fire him? If he's that hot, why wouldn't they fire him at 3-6? It just that seems like a weird thing to me, right? You could bring someone else in who can make moves at the deadline if you think he's not capable of doing it. That was like the first thing. The second thing is I just wonder when you pass on a generational talent like a Brock Bowers, and he just cooks up the league and shreds everything in the sight. He's one of the best rookies we've ever seen, and you pass on him. How much does that weigh in? Like, had he not done that, and the Jets weren't that much better with Bowers, would he still be here? Hypotheticals and
the Jet. What would the Jet record be with Brock Bowers?
I didn't bring my crystal ball, but when you pass on something like that, right? Like Sam Bowie for Michael Jordan. When you do something like that.
So like, you think Brock Bowers is going to be the equivalent of what Michael Jordan was in basketball? You actually believe this?
Well, for his position, yeah.
So you think he's going to be the greatest tight end of all time?
He's going to be in that conversation, yeah. It's like Jordan's in that conversation too, you know. So he's going to be in that conversation. But we knew that, right? Like we knew he was something that
we definitely did not know that he'd be the best tight end of all time. No.
Well, we knew he'd be the best passer. Well, I'm just a little bit more perspicacious with you when it comes to things like that. But it's
you did not.
It's neither here nor.
How's Spencer Rattler doing? Are we gonna play this game, Gary? Really?
Well, I don't know what game you're playing, right? Like you pass on a Brock.
Did somebody say Brock Bowers?
Yeah. Look, it's over with. 27-56. I know 30-64 now. If at 27-56, you didn't realize it was time to move on.
He had this year to win. He had this year to win, and he went 3-8. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah, next time out, let's try to get someone a little brighter, a little sharper, who can speak in complete sentences, who maybe can spend a little more time in
the irony of you telling someone they need to speak in complete sentences. Joe Douglas's press conferences, the understanding of the English language by him was totally fine. That had no impact on his selections of Zach Wilson or Mekhi Becton, for example.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. That's it. So being able to communicate effectively isn't a function of a GM?
You think that Joe Douglas did poorly as the GM because he didn't communicate effectively? You honestly believe?
So you're just not going to answer my question, I guess. Another one that kind of.
What was your question? I'll play your reindeer games. What was your question?
You came after me. I asked a question about Joe Douglas, right?
What's your question? I didn't hear you.
You think it's an important function for a GM to be able to communicate effectively?
Yes.
Okay. Well, he can't do that, right? You wouldn't
I
hire
disagree.
him. You got mad at me because I counted his 30-something ums in a 3-minute speech. Right, like you sound like an idiot.
In a press conference,
is not, 4.
In a press conference before the year started, He's not going to tell you state secrets at a press conference. He's always been guarded with what he says publicly to the media.
What does that have to do with him hemming and hawing and umming and ahhing at every sentence he says? What is it? What is two things?
So Gary, your issues with Joe Douglas is that he says at a press conference a lot.
You sound like an idiot, Jake. If you did that on your job, would ESPN have you?
Joe Douglas's job is to not do press
You're
conferences.
not going to answer that question either. You're not going to answer that question either.
Holy shit!
If you
dude.
spoke like him,
oh my God,
would ESPN keep you?
No, but guess what? Guess what? Joe Douglas's job, Gary,
so he's
is not speak.
You wouldn't be qualified to talk about the Jets. You wouldn't be qualified to talk about the Jets, but he's qualified to run the Jets. That's an interesting take, to say the least, Jake.
Yes, because when Joe Douglas was hired, Gary, he was considered the top candidate for that job, and the Jets were lucky to have him. They had to give him a 6-year deal in the first place because of how good he was, apparently, at identifying talent when he was with the Ravens, and then as the assistant GM of the Eagles.
I gotta see the other candidates. Like who? Jeffrey Dahmer? Who else was on this list here? That he was the top
Before we end this call, because you're wasting everyone's time. Anything else you would like to say? Any other questions, Gary? Because you claim I don't answer your questions. I got a question for you. What's healthier, consuming a salad or smoking one cigarette?
Whatever you want, Jay. The question doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, just pick one. What's healthier to put in your body, smoking one cigarette or having one Caesar salad?
What is with this? Your fascination with this strange question?
Why can't you just? It's a very easy question. The answer is Caesar salad, right?
If that's what you want it to be, sure.
No.
Is that what you want it to be?
What is the answer? It's not
whatever
what I want it to be.
It's whatever you want it to be, Jake.
I want your answer to the question. Why won't you answer my question,
This
Gary?
is quite an
Why won't you
own,
answer my
Jake.
question, Gary? Oh, I'm Gary.
I
get
did
to play
answer
the
your
reindeer
question.
games.
I did
Come on, Gary. Answer the question, baby. Let's go. Caesar salad or a
you look
cigarette?
Really,
Let's go.
You look really intelligent in this.
Whoa, I'm Gary, baby.
You look super.
Brock Bowers.
Did somebody say Brock Bowers?
I mean, what are we doing here? Joe Douglas ultimately failed as a GM. It had nothing to do with his answers at a press conference. I mean, oh my God. You can't. You're calling Joe Douglas an idiot, saying he lacks intelligence, and then you can't even answer a question: what's healthier to put in your body, a Caesar salad or a cigarette? I mean, give me a break. More calls right now. Let's say hello to Jason in Jerusalem. Hello, Jason.
Follow a call like that. I mean, you really put me in a no man's land, Jake. All right. Good for them to make this move. I'm really not in favor of shaking up the front office in the middle of the year. But after losing our kicker simply because you forgot to sign him to the roster, he checked out. And the last thing you want is a GM who's checked out. No reason to keep around any dead weight. Hopefully Savage could do well. I mean, I like Douglas. I think he's a good guy. I think he'll do better at his next stop. I'm sure he will be a GM again in the league, but it was obviously that he needed to move on. But losing a kicker like that, and it could be that Carlson becomes a better kicker. I mean, maybe he'll be like his brother. But inexcusable for a GM to do that.
Too little, too late. And also, like, before this kicker, he couldn't do anything with Zerline. He allowed the season to basically go up in flames because of neglecting an important position. Like last year, he did the same thing again. It was backup quarterback last year. This year, it was kicker.
Right. And, he gambled on Aaron. He not only, obviously, you're going to sign Aaron Rodgers, but to give him the keys and say, you know what, you're basically the de facto GM. And if you want something, you'll get it. You'll get the OC. You'll get Hackett. I mean, why Carter is still running the offensive line after what all the Titans players said about him? Lord knows. But if you look at it, the team upgraded so much this year compared to last year. I mean, Simpson over Tomlinson, Reddick over Huff. I mean, so many positions. There's a legit upgrade. And this team is decidedly worse than they were last year for no reason.
I mean, it doesn't make sense, but somehow here we are. Only the Jets could have, objectively speaking, a way better roster than they had last year. They're going to finish with less wins. It's amazing.
Yeah, and yet somehow the Kotite era and the Gase era are going to look better than than these last 2 years. Absolutely amazing. Those teams had no talent.
Yeah, well, this team will win more games than the Kotite Jets. I mean, they won 4 games over 2 years with Kotite.
Kotite was for 2 years or 3 years? I'm trying to. It was Carroll for 1, and then
I think
Kotite was 2.
Yeah, 95, 96. I mean, the bar's pretty low though. Like we shouldn't be celebrating the last 2 years of it. They're going to win. Let's say they won 7 last year. Let's say they have 3 now. Let's say they finish with 5 wins this year, right? The 2-6 over their last, or 2-4 over their last 6. I mean, you do the math. I mean, that's 12 wins over 2 years.
We all love Douglas simply because he was hired in a normal search. I mean, the idea of how they got Itzik, and then you hire the HC, the head coach and the GM who don't know each other together with McHagnon and Bowles. The way that we got Douglas actually seemed to make sense. We were just, wow, a breath of fresh air, an organization actually doing something smart. And on paper, it seemed like the right move. Hopefully, we're all talking about HC now. Any hiring of an HC before the GM, and we're just destined to another 5 years of futility.
I mean, look, these hires, it goes without saying, they're beyond important. I mean, they've missed the playoffs for 14 seasons in a row. Like,
yeah,
there's no more important hire than these next hires here. I mean, how much longer is this drought going to continue if they get it wrong again?
But Glenn and Monken were the ones who were interviewed last go around. Do you think either one have a chance this time?
Yeah. Well, Monken, I think, definitely has a chance, and they should interview him. He's qualified. Then who was the other name?
Aaron Glenn.
Aaron Glenn. Yeah, I think Glenn definitely will get an interview. I don't know if he'll take it. He might. I think he would take it if offered. I don't love the idea of hiring another defensive coach that's never done it before, though.
I like the idea of a Parcells guy. That's the only thing. A Parcells guy who knows New York is what tips it for Glenn.
I could see him getting the job. I could see Woody liking the fact that he's been here when the team won before and knows the organization. And I mean, Aaron Glenn wants this job. At least he did a few years ago. Like, he told people that close to him, I was told.
And that's before Campbell really started succeeding and created an absolutely kick-ass culture there in Detroit. To have a Parcells guy who became a Campbell guy, I mean, sign me up. Who's played in New York and won in New York. But it's okay. He doesn't come with Peyton Manning's vote of confidence, so
no.
We have to count that against him.
I worry about a guy who's never been a head coach before learning on the job again. I'd prefer someone who's had experience.
I hear that, but on the other hand, that's what we got with Gase.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not talking about hiring Adam Gase. If you want to recreate Gase, go hire Matt Nagy. I'm talking about hiring Mike Vrabel. I'm talking about hiring Brian Flores. Kingsbury would be
very similar.
I don't know. I think Kingsbury to me is a better coach, right?
I don't know. I mean, he flunked out of college, somehow landed in the NFL, made the playoffs his first year, and then completely lost the franchise. You're going to blame Steve Keim and the owner there? I hear Bidwell. I hear that. But I'm not so quick to give Kingsbury the reins again.
Look, he's lower down on my list, but he'd be getting a second shot. He's done a great job with Jaden Daniels. He runs a modern offense. He has previous head coaching experience at both college and the pro level. Maybe he's learned a lot. Like, he's someone I would definitely talk to.
And Aaron's back, or do you want Aaron gone?
I think Aaron's gone.
If he wanted back, would you allow him to come back, or you tell him go elsewhere?
I need to see
ship him to the Vikings to or whatever.
I need to see how he looks over the next 6 games, and he would have to play a lot better because we showed it earlier. Like, to justify bringing Aaron Rodgers back with the cap situation, I don't know if it makes sense. He would have to be a lot better. And I'm also I'm leaving that decision up to the new GM and coach, because the only way the Jet job, you could argue, is attractive is if you let them have power to decide on Rodgers and what the direction is. I think Aaron's gone, though. I don't think Aaron wants to be back next year with a new regime. Did he do McAfee today, by the way? I didn't see any clips pop up. I wonder if he canceled his hit because of the Douglas stuff. Someone in the chat, let me know if Rodgers did McAfee, because I had a business meeting, and then Douglas got fired in the middle of it, so I didn't get any chance to check Twitter before I went live. Kyle says, I'm interested in talking to Joe Brady. Yeah, another good name. Interview him. Dre, my head coach wish list. Andrew Fialco. Get Fialco on the staff. PZ Western. Gary, holding a pen doesn't make you look smarter. Maybe the next GM will be an O-line guru. Hashtag kill me. Robert, and the award for biggest ego goes to Gary. Yeah, I mean, Gary wrote in that I can't talk about football at all. It's hilarious. Anything but football. I just find it funny that you're too big of a moron to answer the question, what's better for your health, eating a salad or smoking a cigarette? We could talk all the football you want. I thought you told me that the Jets were going to win the Super Bowl this year, and this was the most talented roster the Jets have had since 1998, yet somehow you wanted Joe Douglas fired before he was ever hired, or whatever you said. Yet you watch this show every day. It's funny. It's funny how that works. Anyway, more of your calls right now. He's back from the shower. Sonny on Long Island's next. Hello, Sonny.
Hey, Jake. How are you, man?
How was the shower?
It was good. It was good. let me start by saying that a Caesar salad is definitely more healthy than smoking a cigarette.
It's amazing how Gary won't answer that question.
I mean, he should have just answered that question and get it over with. This whole thing with the Jets and the way this season has just became a complete disaster. I know people have got mixed feelings about it. Some were for JD and some were against it. But the guy has got a losing record. He's been here for 6 years. Granted, the first year he's had no control over the team. But, I mean, how much longer could you possibly stick with the guy?
He had enough time, man. You could argue he should have been fired with Salah at the end of last year. My big thing was either they both go or they both get this year. They went with both getting this year, and they didn't even make it through this year because it was so bad.
You're absolutely right, Jake. When we entered that massive losing streak last year to end the season, it was they should have been gone right then and there. There was no reason for them to return. The Jets needed to realize,
ladies and gentlemen, the Sonny internet strikes again. From Sonny to William. Hello, William.
Hi, how you doing, Jake?
Hey, William. How are you?
Nice. I watch your show. This is really exciting being on the show with you. And my opinion, bring back Tannenbaum and Rex Ryan. They're the only two that have given this team any sort of success since Weeb Eubank. And look what happened when they broke them up. So I'm like you. I'm sick and tired of losing. I've been a Jet fan almost as long as Joe Beningo has, and I'm sick of it too. And these guys have proven it. And I think that Rex Ryan is hungry. I think he wants to prove himself, and I think he can do it. Because if he was coaching this team right now, you think this defense would be the way it is?
No
I don't
way.
think so.
But-
And I think that they've proven themselves. And I do believe you bring them back and Woody Johnson just leaves them alone and lets them do their job. I'll bet you if they hadn't have fired him, I bet we'd be winning a Super Bowl by now. And that's my opinion. I know I'm probably crazy, but I really believe in him. And I think that they should be brought back here and left alone. Let them do their job. Don't interfere. And I think that we'd really start improving and getting better. And I also think that bringing Aaron Rodgers here was a mistake.
What did you want them to do?
Huh?
What did you want them to do? What was the alternative?
How about drafting a couple of quarterbacks?
Oh, there was no one available that year.
No, but all right, but still.
But that's the problem. They were in a tough spot. They won 7 games with the worst quarterback play in the league 2 years ago, and Aaron was by far the best available option they could have brought in. It didn't work, but the reason why they were in that spot is because the general manager missed on his second overall pick in historic fashion.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I think that they obviously should draft a quarterback or two this coming draft. And if they want to keep Aaron Rodgers around so the new guy could learn from him, great. But you know what? I'm sick and tired of the fact, too, that when was the last time we had a franchise quarterback around here? You know, that we homegrown, you know?
Probably Chad Pennington.
Yeah. And, I mean, other teams have done it. I don't understand why we can't do it.
Well,
So,
it's a lot of factors, but I don't think bringing Tannenbaum back makes sense. He hasn't been in the league in a while. Rex at least has a son who's still coaching in the NFL. He wants the job. He was objectively speaking, I think Rex was better at his job than Tannenbaum was at his, if we're being fair. And, you know, if they hire a GM who thinks Rex would be a good candidate, like, All right, I'll listen, but I think we're living in the past if we're bringing Tannenbaum back with Rex. That's a long time ago already since they ran the Jets.
All right, even all, but let's do something. You know, I mean,
Well, they're going to do something. I mean, they're
but
definitely going to hire people.
No, what I'm saying is, like I agree with you. I'm sick of losing. Let's get the right people, and I think that Rex could be one of them. And they bring in Mangino or somebody, some good general manager who's reputable, who has credibility, and knows what he's doing. You know, because like you, I'm sick and tired of losing. I really am. You know, I'm fed up. I'm disgusted. I've had it. And it's time to make some real positive changes, you know, and stop this merry-go-round bullshit with this revolving door with the general managers and the head coaches, you know.
I'm with you, William.
It's really getting sickening. So, but anyway, my suggestion was at least, like I said, bring Rex back at least because he's got something to prove.
Yep.
And I think that he'd be really good at whipping these guys into shape. And like you said, let's get the right general manager because I'm fed up. I've had it, and you know, I just want to see this team. You know, I'm 67 years old. You know, and I'd love to see another Super Bowl before I'm dead. You know, if that's possible. You know what I'm saying?
It's possible. It's going to happen for you, William. I believe.
Oh, I hope so, because Joe would be a happy guy too, because I'm not that much younger than he is. And he's saying he probably won't see one in his lifetime, but I hope we do. I really do, Jake. So I'm really praying that they make the right decision here and get this team to start being competitive again and get us into the playoffs and get us to a Super Bowl, you know?
I hope so. Now, William, are you a first-time caller?
Yes, I am.
Now, you got to call back more often, all right? The chat is loving your call.
No, I appreciate that. And thank you, Jake. You run a great show here.
I appreciate it, William. Great job. Ladies and gentlemen, William Sauer, first-time caller, brought it. Great camera angle. You can just see the passion oozing off his face. Love it. Thank you, Willie. Appreciate it. I'm more open to Rex. I'm not on board with Rex and Tannenbaum. I think Rex is going to get an interview, though. I've said this. Prepare yourselves. I think Woody's going to give Rex an interview. I don't know if he'll get the job. In fact, I don't think he will, but I think he's going to get an interview. Curly says that our last caller looked like Harry Carey. I see it a little bit. The glasses. It's a good comp. Not terrible. Let's get to more of your calls right now. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people want in on the show. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you're one of the 1,000 people in here right now, I truly appreciate it. Let's say hello to this guy.
Hi, everybody. This is Bob from Vermont. I am Bob, of course. Do you see in the chat? He said he looks like a future Charles Gorman.
He does have a little Gormani in him. I see it.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was pretty funny. And you did. Yeah, I don't think he wearing a shirt either. You should have asked him if he was wearing.
No, he had a shirt on.
He did not have a shirt on.
I think he had a shirt on.
But no, I was shocked.
Like a tank top, but I think he had something on the sleeves.
Okay. Maybe U-neck like I do.
Yeah, the classic U-neck.
Yeah, that's true.
He did look like Charles Gorman in like 40 years.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I didn't know if he farts on camera though.
I'll ask him that next time.
I had a show before you went on, and I stopped it because I heard Addison told me the big news that Douglas got fired. So I wanted to stop.
Why would you stop your show? You should have continued with your show and gave some takes on Joe Douglas.
No, I went until your show started because I know you were in the ESPN meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a show for like 45 minutes.
How did it go?
It went good. It was good. I was shocked that we got Gary and Alan on at the same time, so it was fun. And Nate too. Don't forget Nate. So yeah, like you said, I would like to have Rex Ryan. He's good. Do you like Rex Ryan?
I like Rex, but he's not my first choice.
Oh no, who's the other one? What's your choice? That like
Mike Vrabel is my number one choice.
Yeah, that's a good guy. He doesn't take any. He was a great coach for the Titans, right?
Yes.
And I would like your Glenn to come in too for the Jets. He plays
Glenn.
Aaron Glenn. He was on he coaches on Detroit Lions, right?
Yes.
That's right. I wonder how my brother's gonna act because he says he was gonna probably be surprised, maybe not. So you gotta have Andrew Fialco today?
No.
Oh, you called him up already?
Maybe.
Oh well, I'll wait. I like talking to my young friend. He's a good guy, isn't he? Smart. Told you he reminds me of the guy from All American Coach.
I see.
You know, offensive. Have him, like somebody said, have Andrew as the offensive coach. I don't mind. He's a smart kid.
We'll stay on the line, Bob, because maybe we'll bring you back when he's on. All right. After a brief Bobby Midnight experience, let's say hello to the big fella. We got some heavy hitters on the line. Big fella, what's up, man?
Hey, that's hard to follow those two calls, man. William, you have to call in more, man. You're going to be a contender in March if you keep calling in, bro.
Yeah, I think he's got a chance to be like this year's George Mason in the Asmaniac Madness tournament.
Absolutely, absolutely. And following a legend like Bobby, forget about it. But Joe Douglas leaving today, I mean, that's a good thing. You know, we get in on it early, you know. We ripped the Band-Aid off, you know, and now we get to look for someone to replace before other teams. I think it's a good thing. You know, I like the guy from Baltimore, and I like Gruden, but Gruden may not come here. You know, I think his thing with Barstool. I know you said that he has a contract, but he's getting paid like a lot of money.
He could get out of it in a second if he got an NFL head coaching job, though.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Well, now Joe Douglas can go find where Rodgers Saffold is, man, because I mean, he's got all the time in the world.
It's true.
But Joe Douglas did do some good things. He drafted some good players, that's for sure. His free agents didn't always work out. I mean, we had Lawson, we had Uzama, we had Rodgers hasn't worked out. Mike Williams didn't work out, but we are set up, with a lot of talent. And I do think that the future is going to be good. We just need the main thing we were missing this year was the culture, the accountability, and that falls on the coach and the GM. And I still think the talent is there. I just think now, they need somebody to, kick their asses into gear. That's all. I mean, Brees, he started off slow. He's picked it up. Garrett has had a great year this year, despite all the BS that's been going on. Sauce has been terrible, but, he was all pro 2 years in a row. So, I mean, there is definitely talent there. And I think that the future is going to be brighter. I really do.
Look, it's tough for it to be worse, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, this team is not sniffed a winning season in a decade. It's hard to be much worse.
That's true. And like one thing that I don't get about Jet fans, right, is that the older Jet fans are like, oh, I want to see a Super Bowl before I die. Bro, I was born in 1972. I haven't seen shit. So, I mean, it's like I would love to see what they saw. You know what I mean? So, I get that they want to see another Super Bowl, but man, we are hungry for it. The people who haven't seen it, I mean, they're blessed.
I'm starving for it. All right, I'll be a cannibal. I'm so hungry to see the Jets have success.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's we just want to win. Our stuff hasn't worked out, but I do think it's going to work out eventually. I really do.
Look, there's been worse situations that have been turned around quicker than what the Jets have right now. Like I'm telling you, Houston was a worse situation when D'Amico got there with Caserio, and they turned it around fast. Same thing with Washington. Same thing with the Lions. Like all these teams have figured it out. It doesn't take 6 years to rebuild a football team. The Jets could be in the playoffs as early as next year or the year after at the latest if they do it right.
Yeah, I mean, bro, look at the 49ers even.
Yeah, they were awful until Shanahan and Lynch got there. Post Harbaugh, they were a joke. Jim Tom Sula, who replaced Jim Harbaugh, He was farting at his introductory press conference, Charles Gorman style. That's who they got to replace one of the best winners in football.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, so, our day is coming. It may not be next year, but listen, Jordan Travis, we got to give him a shot. He was very, very good in college. My son just went over it with me, like his stats and everything. They were excellent. Hopefully he gets over this injury and he could compete for the spot. I want to draft a quarterback, obviously, but Tyrod could be that bridge.
Hey, I'll tell you what, Joe Douglas's legacy ages like fine wine if Jordan Travis actually ends up being really good someday.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
I'll kiss that bald head for the rest of my life if Jordan Travis ends up being good.
You'll be playing that intro for Joe Douglas for the rest of your life, bro.
Honestly, if Joe Douglas left us with Jordan Travis and he ends up being good, which is crazy, but hey, we'll throw it out there right now. Why not? That would do a lot for his legacy. I'll tell you that much.
Well, hell, Ozzie Newsome left Lamar. Why not? But let's hope that Jordan Travis. Hopefully he works out. I mean, he's very, very. When he played, he was very, very talented. So the future's bright. We're going through some shit now, but don't worry, we'll be back. That's
Big fella, you're one of the greats. Hang in there. Can we amend the rules though for this? After we hire both coach and GM, are we allowed to open this? It was supposed to be for winning the division this year. I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately.
You can open it now, dude. I mean, the thing is, it was supposed to be for a celebration. It wasn't supposed to be for misery, man.
I'll wait till they hire, hopefully, a good coach and GM, and we'll be excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Have a good one, brother.
Big fella, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm reading the chat right now, and, I like to be a show for the people, by the people, right? For the Jet fan, by the Jet fan. Tyler writes in, bring on Neil. I want to hear some positive takes on the firing. Tyler, a big Neil guy, obviously. I mean, who isn't? And when it comes to Neil, he's going to come in here. He's going to have a positive look on things. That's what he does. Tyler then wrote, need a Neil shuffle after a year like this. Oh, the pain. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Neil time. Hello, Neil.
Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. Okay, let's create Joe Douglas's tombstone right now. First of all, I want to give him a positive. This guy was a great scout and a great selector of people in a draft. Now, we could look at our own roster, which is really good, but let's take a second to look at people that were on this team in 2021 and no longer on this team that are really, really productive players in the NFL. Let's start JFM, the obvious, Huff, the obvious, etc. But let's look at some names we don't talk about. Fadakasi, starting right now, we could really use a 6'4", 320-pound defensive lineman. Very good player, right, Jake? He was a good player for us. Very productive. Still a starter in the league. Enoch, one of the top safeties for the Giants. Guy is a tremendous player. No longer a Jet, but he was a Jet once. Greg Van Rotten, starting right guard. Who's he playing for right now? But he's a starter. I know that because I always mix him up with our center. Frankie Louvu, playing great. Another great player that Joe Douglas is involved with. Blake Cashman. We really could have used Blake Cashman when C.J. Mosley went down because he's a real good middle linebacker that knows how to tackle and wrap. So those are the guys he let go of. But let's look at that were part of what he selected because when you think about it, our GMs in the past, we never had players that anybody was interested in. We let him go, right, Jake?
Van Rotten stinks is the only thing I would add to that, Neil. But no, Douglas was not bad at all aspects of the job. That's why it's a very complicated legacy. The resume, the record stinks, but we can't ignore the players he picked, some of the UDFA fines he had, the waiver wire claims. Unfortunately, in what was an all-in year, this team's 3-8, and I think what doomed him was a mistake he made last year. He neglected backup QB last year, neglected kicker till it was too late this year.
Well, that's now that I wanted to go to that. The fact that he got fired was no quarterback after Rodgers. Big problem, and not getting one. Look at the Giants. They went out and got a really, really competent quarterback right now because they don't want to. You know who they claim? The Giants. You know who they just signed?
They added it. No, who they add?
Tim Boyle.
Actually?
Yes.
How does this guy keep getting jobs, man?
It's
unreal.
unbelievable.
He's the worst quarterback I've ever watched. I don't understand what teams see in this guy.
Boy, the Giants are they're really trying to follow us down to the sewer pipe. But they got Tim Boyle. But let me tell you why they got Tim Boyle. Because if their other two quarterbacks get injured, Daniel Jones is not going to go back on the field again.
Of course, they're not gonna risk his injury guarantee.
There we go. But at least they made a precaution, which we didn't get anybody because none of the fan base ever wanted to see. You know who? I won't even say his name anymore because it just makes me sick. Go back on the field again after the miserable years he gave us. And he came back on the field after Rodgers went down.
Yeah. And you know what? Joe Douglas would have a job right now. I truly believe if he signed a better backup after week 1 last year, because that team, last year's team, which is better than this year's team on defense and special teams, they had a better quarterback last year. They make the playoffs. Saleh has a job right now. Douglas has a job right now, and they'd get the benefit of the doubt, I believe, because they ended the playoff drought last year without Rodgers, even if this year was a little disappointing.
We blew the fact that we had a great defense. I mean, we came in with the assumption this year we were going to have a top 5 defense, and when he let JFM walk out the door and all these and Huff and everything else, and he disassembled the D-line, that was the beginning of the end of our defense. I mean, let's face it. And even if he kept Mike White, I mean, if he just would have kept Mike White and paid him, all right, I'm not saying Mike White is great, but do you really think with Mike White as quarterback, we still would have had a chance maybe to win a couple of more games than we did with the shit we put out there?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, but at the end of the day, all these moves, like, they led to, like, where we're at. And, like, it was not one move, but ultimately, while he did a lot of good, there's just too much bad to overcome.
Right. He was over his head as a GM. You know, I believe GMs, like coaches, could be very good at one thing, but not good at being a general manager. And I think this guy, Joe Douglas, goes down as the best picker of players for us, draft, UDFAs, etc., than probably we've ever had before. I would put him in that category. The fact is, he didn't pick the right coach. He whiffed on Zach, but let's face it, he would have whiffed on any quarterback in that draft class. Even Trevor Lawrence would have been a whiff. So I can't blame him for that, all right? But in hindsight, he did a lot of good, but he made a lot of mistakes that were like, we just were like, as a fan base saying, what the hell are you doing? I mean, all we did last year is say, why? Even Flacco would have been a nice add-on. Look what he did. He took the Browns to the playoffs. I mean, anything would have been better than Tim Boyle and Zach and Simeon. I mean, that quarterback room was unconscionable. And that's really was the beginning of the end for Joe Douglas. I mean, I think he should have been shit-canned after last year, but we had to give him the benefit of the doubt because, like I said, his player selection and the roster he built for us is still a very, very good roster. I just think it's just like, it's like the Nets. You know, we have a lot of superstars. A couple of years ago, they had all these superstars, and they just were individuals, not a team. And that's basically what I have to say about that. 2 quick things. Evan Roberts came out with a GM selection. You ready for this one? Jerry Reese from the Giants.
Where's Jerry Reese right now?
He's not in football right now. However, he built 2 Super Bowl rosters for the Giants. Let's not one. He built 2. That's not I was kind of left field selection, but that's somebody we could add to the, I mean, the guy built 2, right, Jake? I mean, didn't he build 2 Super Bowl rosters for the Giants?
Yeah, I mean, look, Ernie, of course, he had a lot to do with some of those moves. I mean, he became the general manager in 2007. They won the Super Bowl his first year, but it wasn't really his team that first year. The second team was his. 2011, you could say, was his.
Got
Look,
a good resume. He's got a good resume. I mean,
It's a-
the guy
it's-
has a good resume.
It's a while ago, though. I think there's other guys you could hire before you go back to the pay. He hasn't been a GM since 2017.
And I'm loving the fact that I have a little support for my Spagnola pick this morning. What's it? Robbie liked it. Robbie liked that Spagnola pick. I'm kind of warm up to that one. And the guy knows the New York media. But anyway, look, it's all pontification at this point. We don't know the answer. What's going to be good? We don't know if we should blow Rodgers out. The more people that say to blow Rodgers out the door, the more I want to keep him. And you know what? Evan said the right thing here. And I know you don't like me talking about the competition, but the reality is Evan said he wants Rodgers out. But he did say if a GM comes in here that's competent and he says that he could win with Rodgers and he wants to keep him, that he's going to be okay with keeping him. Shouldn't that be our attitude?
If that's what the GM wants to do, but then what's the plan after Rodgers? Like, are you drafting a quarterback and Rodgers is the bridge? You made a point earlier this week, Neil, that I think is fair. There's still 6 games left. He has the bye week to get healthy. If he starts to play like how he looked the night against the Patriots down the stretch, we're more open to that idea. But I got to see it to believe it first.
Yeah, but I can't believe, again, he's injured. Because you got to see, a lot of times he came off the field, Jake, even last week, he was kind of like hobbling. He's hobbled with something, and he's not the type of guy that's not going to play through an injury. So let's see, like you said, I think when we come back from the bye, we might see a different Aaron Rodgers. And for Christ's sakes, please put a scripted 15-play start together. I mean, this is historic that we haven't scored on our first drive or our first quarter in so long. I have to run, Jake. Take care. I'm getting a bang. I have to go.
Jake, I've made all 13 of my points. Before you cut me off again, I'm going to throw myself out this goddamn window.
Thank you, Neil. Steven NYC is up. What's up, Steve? You're on mute, Steve.
Sorry. Now?
We hear you.
How you doing? I'm the optimist. I want to have some fun. Let's make a good pick. Let's make sure we get this right. Here's my proposal. I have a very hot, crazy take, and I want you to tell me. I don't want to be an enemy of anybody. I want to know, maybe you'll be on my team. Here's what I'm thinking. A little forward thinking. Deion Sanders doing an Archie Manning and maybe making sure that either Travis Hunter or his son is a package deal to bring to New York. And let's have some fun. And thinking forward, these college kids with NILs are going to be able to be more and more able to pick who they want to go to from year to year. I have no problem trying to think that Deion and his son or Travis is worth a 4 or 5 year experiment. What do you think? I don't know if you want it.
I think there's a huge risk in bringing in Deion. He's never done it before. I don't know.
But would you hate it?
I'd be interested. I don't even know if Deion would want this job here.
True. But do you make that call?
I don't. I think they need a more conventional coach than Deion.
But that's where I started. Maybe we want to be traditional as help. Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh were the consensus perfect. We hired the right people. That didn't work.
Well, but you got to keep trying though. That doesn't mean you change the style of people you're looking for just because it didn't work.
I know, but do you want to?
But that doesn't mean Deion would work just because it's different.
I know, but do you want to? Does somebody maybe want to?
I think there'd be people that'd be interested in it, but I don't know, Steve, if that would make sense for the Jets. I don't think the Jets should be the guinea pigs for something that radical when they haven't made the playoffs since 2010. Why do we need to do something crazy that way? Washington hired Dan Quinn, who'd been a head coach before. They hired a good OC and they drafted a rookie quarterback. They're going to be in the playoffs this year. Why can't the Jets do that? Once upon a time, they did do that, right? They hired Rex Ryan, who had never been a head coach before. But guess what? He had talent on the team he took over. They drafted a quarterback who was nowhere near as good as Jaden Daniels has been this year, by the way. But Sanchez started as a rookie. He was a game manager. And they made the playoffs. Why do the Jets need to do the Dion thing? Because it's fun. Like, it's fun, but it doesn't mean it's going to work. Chef Nico says, all this points to Woody, and we need to give total control to someone who knows football. Yeah. You know, but no one can say Woody Johnson wasn't patient before this year. I mean, Joe Douglas was here with the record he had coming into the year, which was bad. They got this year. They were 3-8. The year was essentially over. This gives the Jets an opportunity to get a head start on trying to find the replacements for this regime. Gator brings up Pete Carroll as a director of football ops guy. Yeah, that would make sense. Honestly, bringing Pete Carroll to assist you with hiring these people. That's smart. Pete Carroll, Rick Spielman, Thomas Dimitrov. Bring these guys in as consultants, like what Washington did. Chef Nico writes in, let's go Knicks. Hell yeah. Knicks starting to gel. Love it. More of your calls right now. Seth Rogen's on the line. What's up, Seth?
Hello, how you doing?
How are you, Seth?
I'm wonderful, Jake. So I wanted to propose this to you. Let's say Aaron Rodgers looks like the Aaron Rodgers he has looked like this whole year, the next 6 games. And obviously it's going to be up to the GM and coach. And let's say, theoretically, the GM and coach were like, yeah, we don't really know what we're doing quite yet, but we'll figure it out. And as the offseason goes along, let's say Rodgers goes into the darkness and comes out and says, I want to be a Jet still. And goes, I know I didn't play the best last year, and we can chalk it up to, I think it's Rodgers playing hurt. I also think it's the offensive coordinator, and I think the whole team's in over the head. I don't want to necessarily say it's just Rodgers at this point. But let's just say he does. And for the next 6 games, he throws whatever he throws, and it doesn't look good. I still want Rodgers because, but I also would I would go to Rodgers and go, hey, you need to take a pay cut, again, if you don't want to go out like this and we don't necessarily know what we want and you're the bridge quarterback, but you have to take another pay cut. And he goes, yes. And let's say, hello. Let's say
his money's been paid already. His cap hit is built in. It's $23 million next year. There's no way around that.
I'm talking about the dead cap. Can't
you can't maneuver the dead cap. It's already set.
I did not know that. I don't know anything about cap space. That's why I was wondering. But okay.
Aaron needs to play unbelievably well down the stretch to even justify the conversation of him coming back. And then it's a conversation of, does he want to come back? Because if he does, then I would say to him, okay, but you're learning a new offense. And if that's not cool with you at age 41, I get it, but we're starting over then. Like we're not running the Hackett system next year. It's not happening. Indomitable is up next. What's up, Indomitable?
Jake, what's happening? How you been, man?
What's up, man?
Just a couple of quick points. So let me tell you something real quick. There's a lot of people like supporting Joe Douglas, this, that, the other, but he basically was a dead man walking. I mean, he picked the 2 most important, he wrongly picked the 2 most important assets that a team can have, and that was the quarterback and the head coach. So basically, although he did have a lot of good gems, like Wilson and Hall, Sauce is a good player. I mean, this year he has been off, but Douglas also made questionable mistakes. Like if you found JFM and Hoff on the scrap heap, why not retain them? I mean, you found gold and you're going to give it away. So that was a huge mistake. The second thing is that I said it a couple of months ago. I haven't been calling a lot lately because I was in the Dominican Republic. I was there for a month. So the thing with Rex Ryan, a lot of people want Rex Ryan back. And I said it to you, Jake. Bringing Rex Ryan back is like going back to an ex-girlfriend that he's had, but she's a crackhead. It's going to be a non-mitigated disaster. To put it in context, the last time that the Jets won a playoff game with Rex Ryan, my oldest daughter was going to daycare. Next year, she's going to college. So it feels ancient. It feels like 300 years ago. So I don't think it's the NFL has evolved. Rex Ryan at best is a mid coach. He has an under 500 record with both the Jets and the Bills, so he's not even an option. And lastly, we seem like collectively as a fan base to look for excuses, saying, oh, we could have won a couple of more games with if we had a good kicker, this, that, the other. But if we put it in abstract, like we've played 11 games, the only game the whole season, the only game that we have like dominated, came out looking good, and won the game throughout was the first New England game, because that Tennessee game we had to come from behind like 17 points in the second half. And the Houston Texans game, which we all were there. Sadly, I couldn't meet you guys. I arrived there late. We were chanting to sell the team at halftime. So basically, the only game that the Jets have looked like a competent, dominant team the whole year was that Thursday night game against New England. Thank you, Jake. Thank you for the work, and love you all.
Indomitable, I appreciate you. All right, it's so funny seeing some of the reaction online for people killing the Jets for getting rid of Douglas. It's like when they got rid of Zach and they got rid of Salah. All of these people want us to somehow believe, even though they clown on the Jets every day, that the Jets had the right coach and right GM in place, yet they had never won more than 7 games in the last 6 years Joe Douglas has been the GM. Explain that to me. Indomitable's right. It was time to move on. All right? These next hires are beyond important. I'm laughing at Buffalo Jet fan. I just retweeted him. So Albert Breer said that people who work in the Jets building feel like Woody Johnson listens to what people say on Twitter too much, basically. So Buffalo Jet fan tweeted, Woody Johnson easily watches Jake Asman streams while eating Raisin Brain every morning. I can't with this team. We got a special guest joining us in a few minutes. Until then, let's take more of your calls. Daniel is Daniel's gone. Daniel, I was clicking the button and you disappeared. Ludes TV with a super chat. Draft the quarterback, keep AR, let a rookie sit and learn a year. That was my original thought. I don't think Aaron's playing well enough to justify that right now. He'd have to be willing to play better. One, he has to play better. 2, he's got to learn a new offense. That's the only way I think you could do that. The only way. Ladies and gentlemen, we were going to do a film review today with Andrew Fialco. That was scheduled for 4 o'clock. And then Woody Johnson had other ideas. So joining us right now is Andrew Fialco, a little bit earlier than planned. And we will do some film, but we'll also talk way more about the Joe Douglas stuff. Andrew, your reaction to JD being fired was what?
Not surprising. I don't know how you felt, Jake, because we haven't spoken about it yet. I feel like he could have waited until the end of the season, but I was reading Twitter enough today that people were saying it's awkward in the building and he knows that he's out, so it would be weird for them to be looking for a new candidate while he's in the building. Just a lot of awkwardness. He gets to move on. The Jets get to get an early start on their GM search. And, yeah, I think I saw some tweets where I was kind of like, yeah, it feels like Woody just trying to make a headline. But I think it was inevitable. It was either going to happen today or 8 weeks from now. So I don't hate it.
The biggest thing for me is it just felt like he was a dead GM walking anyway. Like that press conference did a few weeks ago was sad. So,
yeah.
What's the point? You know, What's the point? Get started on the search. My big thing going forward, though, is not, oh, wow, I can't believe they fired Douglas. That was expected. Who's in these interviews? Who's identifying the candidates with Woody and Chris? Who's helping them?
Right. Funny enough, was talking to Robbie Sabo, who I know you had on earlier about it, and I was trying to figure out who's going to be consulting because I don't know. I don't know any Jet fan in the country that wants Woody Johnson to make these decisions again. He's not a football guy anyway. The fact that these owners have a say in these decisions is crazy. I mean, he fired Robert Saleh clearly without Joe Douglas's opinion. And what he literally did that, and I still kind of believe that he did that because of them losing in London, him being an ambassador. Like, I truly think that he could have like crashed out and just said, okay, like, I'm so embarrassed because we needed to win this game and we lost, and I'm the ambassador over here, and I'm that embarrassed that I'm going to do something about it. And he fired Salah. But I don't really care at this point who makes the decision, as long as it's not Woody. Like, I know you've spoken on the show a bit about Curtis Martin. Just want to get someone that has some background in football, whether it's with player personnel, in the development aspect of football, some sort of assistant, consultant, someone else that could get in Woody's head where he won't do what he did and kind of made Rodgers the de facto GM, which I feel like was kind of what he had to do. But it can't be Woody making a football decision. He's not a football operations guy. I don't know his full past. If you know it, I don't know what he's done, but I don't think he's a football connoisseur or someone that's any bit knowledgeable about football.
Just can't believe this season became what it became.
Yeah.
3-8. We went
It's
to
crazy.
this was the most excited this fan base had been in 15 years for the start of a year. And it's over by Thanksgiving, before Thanksgiving even. And the GM and coach that once upon a time we were all excited about, they don't even make it till the end.
Yeah, but Jake, we kind of had a feeling like after last year, I crazy enough remember being on the show in like December and January with you and saying the only reason why Douglas and Salah had a job was because Rodgers tore his Achilles.
Yep.
So we kind of knew that was the case. We held on to the hope that Rodgers liked Salah because he came out and said it. Obviously, he's not going to come out and say he doesn't like his head coach, but it was almost inevitable that if the Jets didn't really like make a crazy playoff run with Rodgers or even win the Super Bowl at the end of his 3 years here, how were these two going to have a job still? I mean, Joe Douglas was 30-64 in 5.5 seasons with the Jets. That's awful. And
0 playoff appearances and sniffed 7 wins as the ceiling.
Right.
3 times.
Exactly. And missed on his quarterback, which we gave him. We let him get away scot-free for that pretty much, and gave him the chance to get Rodgers, who seemed to. I don't know. I still give Douglas credit for getting Rodgers, and it's so sad because this is all so different. If the 0.001% chance of Rodgers snapping his Achilles 4 plays into the season doesn't happen, we're looking at a very different story right now. So is it unfortunate that Rodgers got hurt? 100%. Like, it really, really was like unfortunate. And obviously you, myself included, thought that this season would be, I don't know. I thought positive. I went to enough training camps that I got brainwashed by the team to be competent in a sense. Like, we're 3-8. We're looking at a possible top 5 draft pick. If someone came on the show in the offseason and said that to me, I would have told them they were an idiot, and I'm the idiot. So,
well, the only way you would have thought this team would be 3-8 at their bye would be if Rodgers got hurt again or something like that.
Yeah.
You know? Like, this team, for the most part, they've obviously had some big injuries, especially on defense. Offensively, they've been healthy. They really have. Even Tyron Smith, we were so worried about him. He finally went down with an injury, but we thought it'd be a way sooner than this. Like, that hasn't even happened. He just wasn't good, which no one could have seen happening, I guess. And it's just wild, man, because 3-8 with this talent. And that's the thing. This opening, I think, assuming you get to just control what you want to do with Rodgers, because that to me is a big caveat. This opening is somewhat attractive. I really believe that. I mean, how many openings have 4/5 of their offensive line already in place? A number 1 wide receiver, number 1 running back, like a legit star running back in Brees. Defensively, you have a all-pro level defensive tackle. You have a Pro Bowl edge rusher in Jermaine coming back. McDonald will be in the Pro Bowl this year.
Yeah.
Quincy's an all-pro linebacker. Sauce is still very good, and I think with new coaching, he can get back to being what he was. Michael Carter's still very good. Like, there's some good football players here. I said this earlier in the show before you joined, Andrew. When Joe Douglas took over, his best players were Jamal Adams, who was a safety at a non-premium position and was a flawed player, if that. Leonard Williams, who to me was very overrated. And Robbie Anderson, like that's what we were talking about here. Like this team's got way more talent than that team. It hasn't worked from a win-loss standpoint, but like the cover is not bare here for the next regime.
I agree. I don't know if people are coming on and saying that like it's all gloom and doom, and I can't knock anyone for coming on and saying that at this point because the expectations obviously for this season were so high, and the fact that they got crushed the way that they did, if a Jet fan came on and said that they have no reason to believe again, I don't blame them. I'm a young Jet fan, and I can only imagine what anyone older than me has been going through for this amount of time. But like you said, you've made all the right points. We have cornerstones at premium positions. That is essential. Obviously, at the most premium position, we don't have a cornerstone, which is quarterback. But like you said, 2 premier edge rushers, in my opinion. Like Will is just continuing to ascend. Obviously, we hope Jermaine comes back from the Achilles tear and is the same player he was. Quinnen is still an elite nose tackle, D tackle. He's shown that in the past few weeks. He even, I think, had 10 run stops on Sunday or something like that. So he's still playing his butt off after a slow start to the season. Everyone was upset about that. And then you have a cornerstone at cornerback in Sauce, who I know people are down on, but I think he's still able to play at an elite level. Maybe not the level he played at his first 2 years, but I still think he's an elite cover corner. You have a cornerstone at wide receiver. So when I talk about premium positions, my top 5 positions in the NFL are any range of quarterback being 1, then you have receiver, edge, corner, and tackles / O-line. So like you said, again, where we go from tackles, we invested in a tackle last season in the draft with Olu. So hopefully he continues to ascend. And we have not had a season ending where we have 3+ pieces on the line going forward. I really think even if they wanted to bring Moses back, he would come back and either be a swing guy or a starter for us. And then you keep continuity on the offensive line, which we haven't had in so damn long. We have not had that. And look, I'm a huge fan of John Simpson. I think he's been really, really good this year. I think he's been one of the most underrated players on the team. Tipman, I think, has been solid. AVT, I think, is a great player if he stays healthy. And then you just have the right tackle position of maybe Moses, and maybe you draft a guy or sign a guy in free agency, if not Moses. But like I just put out, that's 4 out of the 5 premium positions in my eyes on the football field that we have somewhat figured out. I think we still could make an upgraded receiver, definitely. I don't know if Devontae is going to stay if Rodgers leaves. So that's up in the air. I think
drafting a receiver is in play in the first round for sure.
For sure. If they don't go quarterback, I would be shocked if it wasn't receiver or D tackle, I would assume. Again, I haven't really got into the draft stuff yet myself. So I'm not super sure where everything's like strong position-wise. But look, you get a quarterback, you get the right coaching staff, you get the right support system, this team could be good. We have not had the right support system for this team in a long time. And look, I still am very worried about Woody running this team, so it remains to be seen.
Yeah, to me, the biggest thing is like, okay, you knew this was coming. It happens today with Douglas. Sowell is already gone. They're 1-5 since Obrick took over, so you knew they were going to have a new coach.
Yep.
Knew they were going to have a new GM. It happens now. What is the plan to hire the right football people? And, you know, we saw Curtis Martin's name suggested by Gary Myers because he's trying to get into ownership and has connections around the league and is good friends with Goodell and all that. The Commanders, I looked at what they did as I started to research this. Last year, they hired Bob Myers and they hired Rick Spielman to be consultants. And they sat in the interviews with Josh Harris, the Commanders owner, and that led them to Adam Peters and eventually Dan Quinn. Like, who's helping Woody Johnson hire the next people? I really hope we get some sort of announcement that, you know, Pete Carroll has been hired as a consultant or something like that. Like, they need football people helping them. And it can't be Charlie Casserly, who's 80 years old.
I agree. You know, I'm definitely going to look into that now that you said that, because I feel like the Jets haven't been in this place in a long time where I've been this integrated with the team, at least covering them in that aspect. Because I don't know what teams do around the league with owners that have little to no knowledge. Like you said, they hire guys to help them with these things, but I don't know where we go for that. Like you said, Pete Carroll potentially, Curtis Martin potentially. What role that exactly is, the name of the role, I'm not super certain of, but it cannot just be Woody Johnson checking his phone. And it's funny, I was watching a video today, or someone said it, like there's a tweet from maybe Albert Breer where it's Woody cares so much about the Jets fans and like the Twitter like aspect of things, it seems like, that he makes decisions based off that. So like if he wants Jets Twitter to run it, I'm more okay with that than himself by a lot. So if that's what he wants, fine. But he really should look into the NFL, look around the league for some consultants, some veteran guys that have been in front offices for a long period of time that have experience in making decisions like this and being successful in them, because Woody has not been successful in these decisions.
Pain. Now, in the film review you and I were going to do today, I asked you to pull a lot of Rodgers because I don't think he's going to be here next year, but I'm curious on film as you're looking at it every week, what your thoughts on why it's not looking like the way we thought. And I understand statistically it looks pretty good. And if you look at his accounting stats, touchdowns, interceptions, yards, completions, it's better by far than any Jet quarterback since 2015 Fitz. But the eye test is telling me he has happy feet in the pocket. He's not going through his reads. He's not throwing downfield at all. Maybe he's still hurt. I don't know, but he's not on the injury report anymore. And unless he lights it up after the bye week here, I don't see him back next year. But I basically wanted to go over some film with you so you could point out what you're seeing with Rodgers and why it's not looking the way many of us thought it would look this year.
Yeah. I mean, I really think, Jake, that the injury has set him back farther than I even thought could be possible. He's not comfortable, and he's so uncomfortable to the point where obviously he's getting the ball out so fast that the receivers aren't on the same page as him. But we've had that problem the whole year. We're not running a real offense. We're running a Rodgers offense where he's basically playing Madden at the line and audibling every single route, every other play. And it's just a lot for these receivers that haven't played with him. These are their first 10 games playing with him besides Devontae, to get on the same page with that quickly. So I don't know, man. It's really tough because I do feel for him. He did a lot for this team. Yeah, he came here and was ready to change the culture. Obviously, the Achilles tear happened. Didn't leave the team, stayed a part of the team after he rehabbed, was on the sidelines trying to help with the team. For all the people that think he's a horrible person and this, that, and the third, he's really not. He's a great teammate, really liked by the team, from what I know. And it's so unfortunate. But watching the film with him at this point, it does just feel like it's kind of I said it 2 weeks ago, I think. I just don't feel like we can succeed with him to the extent that a football team would want to succeed with him. And it's a lot to do with the injuries, and I just don't think he's comfortable mentally right now on the football field like he really would want to be. And I know he hasn't said that yet. I really do anticipate him in an off-season interview talking about it more and just saying that this Achilles tear, one, changes his mobility, obviously, and you need to be mobile as a quarterback. And then it just changes. Once your mobility is gone, your time in the pocket goes down a lot. So if his first reads needs to be there, he's either going to force it in, be inaccurate, or when he gets to his next read, he's going to be like, shoot, if that's not there, I'm going to get hit, and I don't want to get hit. It was also the Minnesota game. If you look back at that, I think that was a real changing point in the season where he was like, I cannot take this many hits or I'm not going to be able to play this year. And he really, really wanted to play this year. So a lot of different things, but those are the two main culprits that stick out in my mind.
Yeah, almost like he was fortunate to make it through that game with how big of a beating he took.
100%. I mean, that
changed them. Yeah, Denver the week before changed them too. Those two games in succession caused a lot of damage.
Yeah, and you look at the hits he was taking in both those games. There was zero blitzing and getting and hitting him within 2 seconds. The Vikings game, I mean, everyone remembers that one hit he took where they literally almost snapped him in half, and I could have sworn on my life that he had torn something, but limped off. We got a roughing the kicker on a punt, and then he limped right back onto the field.
He wanted to win, man. I mean, it was all with the best intentions. He's not Aaron Rodgers is not playing poor on purpose. I promise you that. It probably kills him that Douglas is gone, who he liked a lot. Salah, the whole regime is gone, and he's likely next. It's crazy because I do agree, because if you watch the film from the Patriot game you and I were at, the home opener,
Yeah.
he looked like the old Aaron Rodgers that night. Now he's just old Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, if anyone wants to go back and watch the film review I did on that game, like it's insane how well he played. It really made me think that, like, okay, we got a real shot this year to do something, because, like you said, he really looked like his old self. Like, majority of the plays he was making were out of the pocket. Conklin was on the same page as him. Lazard looked great that game. Garrett looked good that game. Everything was humming. That was a full one game where the offense looked like what it really could be, with Aaron being Aaron. And then after that, everything changed. Was the game right after that the Denver game?
Yeah, that's when he took a beating. And if you notice, since the Denver and Vikings game back to back, you can't think of too many hits where he got crushed, because he gets the ball out now so fast. He's a one-read quarterback, which is what we killed Zach Wilson for, right? And Aaron's now, like, he's doing it. And, like, you're going to do the film review here, but I showed this earlier, and I just want to point this out and get your thoughts on it, Andrew, because you're the expert on this. Like, this play to me is a play that an Aaron Rodgers Hall of Fame career he is making all the time. He's going out there, and he is dominating by just going through a second read here. So I'm going to do a little Fialco film review myself here. You tell me how I do here. Ready? So screen share. So I saw this on Twitter, right? Watch Devontae here. You probably saw the same clip when you were reviewing the film on your end. I'm going to pull it up on my screen now.
Is this the over the middle? Yeah.
Watch Devontae here. Like, he has time in the pocket. He's already, in my opinion, like, all right, I'm going to Garrett Wilson here. That's the read. That's what I'm doing no matter what. And if he just takes an extra second to look, he has good protection. If he just goes to his second read, he'll see his best buddy, the guy who's supposed to open everything up for this offense, be wide open with plenty of yak opportunity, move the chains and get another 30 yards down the field. Maybe he even scores. Who knows? Like, the old Aaron Rodgers, from like week 3, is taking the extra second and finding Devontae, and he just already predetermined, I can't get hit. I'm going to force it into Garrett here no matter what. Like, he had time. Like, the protection was good here, and he's already just getting rid of it to Garrett, who's not open, and Devontae's wide open. Like, these are the things I'm seeing when I watch it, and you're an expert. What are you seeing?
Well, that's as simple as he should see the corner sitting on that stop route at the sticks, reset his feet, and get back to the middle of the field. That's like QB 101. This is stuff we would, like you said, kill Zach for. I'd be like, this is why you can't be a quarterback in the NFL. Because if you don't see one, there's 2 guys over there. I know this is not really the all 22 that I could fully see, but the corner's clearly squatting, and Rodgers takes a 3-step drop and the ball is out. It's not horrible timing from him, but if the corner's squatting, then there's no way you're going to complete that pass on a stop route. It's just a simple reset the feet and get to your next read. And it's something Rodgers has done his entire career. So that's why when I mentioned Zach, it's like Zach was missing that, and that was what he needed to do to get his career going. Rodgers has been doing this for 18, 19 years normally. But I don't know, man. I've been showing this film for weeks now. I've been watching it myself, and he hasn't been himself. Like, he's been the one read guy, and if the one read's not there, he's taking a sack or throwing it to that read, and that's happening. Besides the Patriots game, if things broke down in the Patriots game, there's a stat from the Patriots game. I think he was like 10 for 12 for like 190 yards outside of the pocket.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know if he's had 190 yards outside of the pocket the rest of the season. So, like you said, something changed in the Denver game. And I know that was a rainy game, and they were getting lit up. They had a horrible game plan. And then he went to Minnesota, got lit up again, and lost a heartbreaker that they actually probably could have definitely won that game. And then things just changed mentally. And he's one of the only guys in the league that I would say can't get broken mentally. But you tear your Achilles and you're about to turn 41 in 2 weeks. Father time and things change. So,
ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Andrew Fialco, JetsXFactor.com. He's their film expert, film analyst. He's also one of us, a diehard Jet fan and an Asmaniac. Do you have some Rodgers stuff you want to show? Do you have it in you to show it?
Yep, I could. I'll share my screen and get a couple of clips for you guys.
Also, Daniel, I see your super chat. He tried calling earlier. I was about to go to him, but cut out, and then he said he didn't want to lose his mind on the stream, so he changed his mind. Daniel, we got you. Hit the like button if you're just tuning in. We are 2.5 hours into the show. We reacted to Joe Douglas being fired. We got Andrew Fialco's thoughts, and now we'll talk about beyond Douglas, right? We know there's a new GM, a new coach. There's a decision coming on quarterback. I think I'd be surprised if Rodgers is here next year, but we'll see how the next 6 games go. But here's the film from Andrew from the most recent game against the Colts on Sunday. Andrew, we now could all see your screen, so take it away.
Alrighty. I think this was the first quarter, and I mean, I was just, I kind of had a feeling bad things were to come. And you know what's funny? Like, they still scored 27 points. Like the offense didn't play horribly on Sunday. Obviously, Brees had a huge game, and thought the line played well. And I don't know. I thought they ended up scoring 27. You hope to win with that. So this is just early in the game, third down. I know my mouse is small, but we're trying to eye in on Garrett here in the slot. No, on the outside. So condensed 2x2 to the field. You're just going to have Conklin on a little sit route, Garrett on a little, I call it drift or like a swirl route. And I'll just run it through, and then I'll say, again, I don't really have an explanation for how bad he's been missing him. And this is one of 2 plays I have where he just, I don't know what is going on. His footwork, everyone's going to try and come at probably. I cannot explain, but you have what you want here. You have a high-low concept. It's 3rd and 8. Conklin stick route gets the safety to jump. And look, Rodgers is throwing this with good anticipation. The ball's coming out here. You're throwing it right into this area. This is normal Rodgers throwing a receiver open. I know 40's breaking on it, but Garrett's going to take this down, and there's a ton of room. NFL open. Rodgers releasing the ball, good anticipation, and it's just completely behind him. On the end zone angle, do I have an explanation for his footwork, and is that why? I know someone on Twitter was telling me he's fading back. I kind of see him fading back, but like not really. It's pretty normal footwork from Rodgers there and throw. Like that's why when I was watching, I was like, I really don't understand. Like this is good footwork, good base. No, I mean you can't ask for a better pocket in the NFL than this. And you see Garrett's not even in the screen yet. You just got to throw him to this area. And for whatever reason, I don't know if he's fading back a tiny bit. It looks like a little. It goes the way he's fading almost, and the ball is like 3 yards behind him. Basically, like he was throwing it to the Colt DB. 150 yards this game, I thought. It was really like misses that you like, just shocking misses. Like I guess it's not as shocking anymore, but man, Rodgers, we've always said clean pocket. His mental is still there. These are layups for him. I don't know what people are saying in the chat, but like, oh, it might be a little covered. Like this is as open as you're going to get in the NFL. And you could lead him up here, and this could be a big yak play. Oh, and I forgot to mention, people are going to come at him sideways for this also, because what you just showed, Jake. So he's locked onto this side of the field. Fine, because they're playing some sort of too high shell. Maybe it's quarter, half field coverage. And they blow it on the backside, and Devontae Adams would walk in for a touchdown if he wanted. Now, I'm not getting on him here because he was never looking that back on backside, and Garrett was open. So he made the right read. It's just funny to see that they blew this pass off, and Devontae could have probably crawled to the end zone for a touchdown if you let him upfield. So I don't know how you can somehow combat 2 plays into one like that, where you missed the open guy and then you also didn't see the other guy, your best friend, running naked down the field. But that's what the Jets do, Jake. So
it's tough to watch this, man, because like this was like at the bare minimum, hit clean pocket, arm works, processing still works. He's gonna be fine. The lack of mobility stuff, okay, fine. That doesn't need to be running all over the place and still be a competent quarterback. So it's so disappointing.
Yep. Yeah. Very disappointing. And then this one, I was run it through again. We're at the top here. It's almost similar play. It's Garrett on a dig route though, so he's going to go 12-10 hopefully from the 30-yard line. And this one, it kind of even bothers me more because I have no idea what Rodgers is waiting for, and this is not something that he ever does wrong. Like, I'll go back. We'll see when he hits the top of his drop. Right now, this ball should be coming out. Right now. Even a tick late for me here. Garrett is already breaking in. Conklin's taking – looks like some sort of Tampa 2, maybe with the linebacker running with Conklin, or I think it was a 2x2 set, so you have maybe quarter, half. cover 6, whatever it is. It works. Good play call. You get Garrett open on the dig route. Why the ball isn't coming out here, I have no idea. Ball should be coming out. He hitches. Ball should still come out. And by the time Garrett's so open, Olu gets bull rushed into Rodgers, and Rodgers falls over basically. He gets lean as stuff as you're going to get. This is basic install. Day one, Gibson on a little stick route up top. Garrett on the dig. Conklin's going to take the linebacker. Rodgers is making the right decision. Right now, the ball needs to come out. He's going to release it. I don't know what in his mind is telling him not to. Release the ball now. And too late, dude, because now Olu got bull rushed into you. But again, timing, quarterbacking is everything. Timing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Top of your drop. Ball could come out now. Still could come out. And then it's too late. And that's what football is, man. It's milliseconds. But here he had 3 seconds to throw the ball. It's crazy to me. 1, 2, 3. That's like a 5-step drop for me, but a 3 or 5-step drop. Top of your drop. Ball could come out right now. You see what he's doing also, Jake. He goes top of his drop, pats the ball once, goes to throw up, pats the ball, steps forward into pressure.
Zach Wilson taught Aaron Rodgers more than we knew.
I'm not used to it, dude. I'm really not used to seeing plays like this. I'll just run it one more time. Okay, so what it was trips to the front side, Devontae backside getting shaded by safety. So you have perfect coverage on the back on your front side, what you want. And man, it hurts to watch because I love Rodgers, dude. But this is not like him. It's really, really not like him. You hit the top of your drop in the NFL, and you take one hitch up, and you got to get the ball out. Ready? Hitch up, ball's gonna come out. Like Olu did a hell. I have what else I had for you was just a horrible coaching thing in my opinion, and more bad timing from Rodgers. I'll just go over this quickly. 3rd and 8 from the beginning of the game. I think maybe not the beginning of the game. I could actually find out. I think it was 3rd and 8. Okay, 3rd and 8. What you're gonna have here again? Not my favorite. I hate these concepts where Garrett's not on the move. I don't know if people out there know what I mean by that. I want Garrett on the move on crossing routes, on corner routes, on digs, on posts. I don't want him being stationary and running a hitch. I want him to have the ability to do what he does best, and that's yards after the catch. So what we have here is if you play Madden, it's a simple play, hitch fade. So you have hitches on the outside, mirrored concepts both sides of the field, hitches, and then fades by the inside guys. Colts are running a 2 linebacker blitz in 1 man. So that means man, deep safety. Okay, there's a lot of ways you could attack this. I would run dagger. I could go on and on and on for people that are nerds about football like me. What I wouldn't do is run Garrett on a stop route. But okay, fine. What happens? Garrett's open. But like when I tell you this is horrible timing, this was the play, Jake. It was 3rd and 8, and they got 7 yards. So in my mind, I'm like, shoot, why did Garrett run the route a yard short of the sticks? That's coaching. But also, unfortunately, Rodgers, this ball needs to be out. You need to know, is this a 7-step hitch, 9-step hitch, whatever it is? The ball needs to be out before he breaks back to the quarterback. You guys watch QB school, anything like that, you got to anticipate your throws to give your guy a chance to have some yards after the catch. So Rodgers sees the coverage. The ball should have been out now. Right now, the ball should be out because Garrett's going to turn right away, and he'd be ready to turn and go up the field for God knows how long. But Rodgers still hasn't had the ball out. The ball's still not out. It's still not out. Now he's releasing it, and now you're giving the corner so much time to break on Garrett, who has 4 yards of separation, comes back to the ball like he's tall on a hitch, and he's tackled right away. That's so much timing, man. It's quarterbacking, all about timing. The ball has to come out earlier. Like, let's see, 1, 2, 3. You hit the top of your drop. Ball should be out right now. He's already breaking. The ball could come out right now. Do I like the design of the play? Absolutely not. It's horrible. But this is a first down. Garrett ran a good route. He's pressing vertical. The DB's on his back foot, and the ball is not on its way yet. This is a far hash throw. He's throwing from the opposite hash. The ball needs to come out before this, now. And it doesn't. So, again, that's just how you're not a good football team. You get 7 yards on 3rd and 8, and then the freaking play after that, Conklin goes under center and can't get a QB sneak. So, I don't know, Jake, if you want me to show. I had the sauce play that was going viral. If you wanted me to do that one quickly, or if that was all.
You have anything from Olu? How do you look on film?
Yeah. I
One
had
positive.
the Olu clips. See if they pop up. Okay, I'll get them up in 1 second.
While you're getting it up, I'll get to a super chat or two here. This one is from Daniel. Says, laughed at Denver beginning of the year. They hired the right guy, and they're laughing at us. Yeah, I mean, look at Bo Nix getting better. Coaching matters. Sean Payton's a really good coach. He's proven that over a long career.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's not normal for rookie quarterbacks to come into the NFL and be successful. Like CJ Stroud was crazy that happened. And now Jaden,
crazy. Yeah.
Jaden and Bo, like it's not normal. It's coaching. So, coaching matters. It's the most important thing in the sport. So it's the sport where it matters the most. And we're seeing that tenfold.
Bo with a super chat. Might sound crazy, but I pay Bart Scott money to get away from television and use his knowledge of the game as a DC. He has a great defensive perception. Look, if he wants to coach, great. You're not making him a DC with no coaching experience. You gotta pay your dues.
I know exactly what clip that guy's talking about. He was talking about the
sauce play at the end. Yeah.
The Pierce play at the end. Yeah. Yep.
Bart's awesome. It's just you don't just go from TV to DC with no previous coaching experience. Like,
no. Can't do that.
All right, Andrew. Whenever you're ready, I will bring up this next play for you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Keenan on Olu. I went through a bunch, and there were like two that I think stood out to me. This was just a toss play. And I thought, again, something we were worried about with him was his pad level. Really liked his pad level here. Great job displacing the D end. Look at this hole he's creating for Brees. I mean, that's tailor-made hole for Brees. I thought the line did a great job all day. Good anchor, stays pad level, keeps his feet going. That's all you want to see from finish, his motor. Always want to see the feet going through the play again right here. Great get off. That's really good get off, by the way, from Olu. The ball hasn't been snapped yet, and he's already moving. So another thing I just found I didn't have that in my notes, but 5 or 6 yards before Brees is even touched. And that's all of them saying, hey, Olu, we're running a toss play behind you. You got to go make a play and displace this edge, and he does a great job at it. So pad level was a concern for me. Play strength, a little bit of a concern. 100% showing up there. I love driving the feet the way he does throughout the play. He finishes the play here. Watch him at the end. Finishes 54, continues running forward to keep going, and Brees gets 7 on the toss play. I mean, the run game was really good on Sunday. So I think that's another. I know it's hard to take positives, but that's a positive for me.
Well, I hope whoever the next coach is realizes how big of a game changer Brees Hall can be if used properly.
Yeah, I hope so as well. This was a 3rd and 14. I actually think Olu honestly made this happen. Solid ship by Conklin, like decent, doesn't do a ton, but again, really good hand placement from Olu. Right inside, perfect anchor, hold him up. Keep your feet moving. A lot of times we've seen Rodgers come out of the pocket here and the O-line give up and then him get clobbered. This is so smart and good by Olu to stay on with his body control to get the 3rd and 14, which you need to improvise on 3rd and 14. It's just not going to be that easy. But again, from Olu, staying engaged the whole play, good awareness, good anchor, good hand placement, good pad level, allows.
I mean, in the second half, Rodgers obviously statistically played better. It was a lot of yak, though, right? Like great individual
one, but I don't know if you guys already spoke about it or anything.
I haven't spoken about it. If you want to run it, you definitely can. If there's anything that you think,
I'll do it quickly. Honestly, not even shamelessly plugging, but Robbie Sabo has an 8-minute review on this play on his Twitter. That's a lot better than what I could do. Basically, I know everyone's giving him flack for this sauce. I think this is just a tough read. Again, it's some people call it the Greg Roman special. It's really the Jet special. It's an out and a go, and it's cover 2. It's 2 read. It's palms, whatever you want to call it. Palms. It's sauce is clearly reading 2 to 1. If 2 breaks out, he's breaking in on 2. If 1 goes vertical, Mills needs to get better depth. and try and have Sauce. Really, what you need from Sauce here is a press to force the timing of this route to be off, press him to the sideline or press him inside. Instead, as Robbie Sabo is saying, Sauce is staring at A-Rich. So Richardson is not an idiot. He's like, okay, that's clearly zone coverage, because if you're in man coverage, you're head on. At the snap, Sauce is like, sees Richardson pump, sees Downs is going to come on the out. So he's like, I don't know what to do. Doesn't get enough depth. Mills is in no man's land, and it's a hell of a throw, and it's a hole shot, man. But again, it doesn't have to be like this. Like, in my eyes, if I'm the coach, I'm saying, hey, Sauce, I want you to press and then zone turn and get your head around to the quarterback. You can't give this guy a free outside release like this on a play that gets ran in freaking preschool stuff, man. It's out and a go against cover 2. You would find this anywhere. You can't let that happen and let him have a free release right outside you. And you're just like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know. Well, he had a free release. Now Sauce is pointing forward. He's saying, hey, Oliver, you got him. So then why are you pointing forward like you know you're going to have Pierce? Because Pierce, then you stop running and then you point at Mills. It's, again, coaching, though. It's a lot of coaching, man. Like Sauce is mad at Mills then. And I understand, because Mills didn't get enough depth here. You got to be getting better depth in cover 2. You're cover 2, man. You got the half of the field here. And you're in palm, so you're really keying on one on this. But like, Sauce, what are we mad about? He's saying get over to Mills. I understand that, because look, Mills did not have good depth here. You got to get closer to the 50, definitely. So this throw can't be made. But I don't like the attitude anyway. It's not. We're not pointing fingers when you didn't get any depth. You didn't help on the out, and you didn't help on the go. So I don't know what you did there. You were basically a traffic cone.
And I don't know, like Patrick Surtain, I feel like stays with him if he sees the guy's out of position and goes and just makes a play on his own. You know?
Yeah. Pat is someone I've had so many arguments with people about that Sauce was better, and I
kill shot, right? Because he's worried about a penalty being called at him or being out of position and being the reason why the team loses and then being blamed for it. I really do think the right coaching staff coming in will see the talent of Sauce Gardner and get him back to what he was and build his confidence back up. Like Lazard all of a sudden went from look, Sauce is a way better player than Lazard, but like Lazard got some confidence built back up. He's comfortable with Rodgers. He's confident again. Like this, Sauce Gardner hasn't forgotten how to play football. He's too talented. You can't be a first-team All-Pro twice by accident. I'm not giving up on Sauce Gardner.
No. He still has a lot of good things about him. He's really good in coverage. He's good instincts normally. He's super long. He's super fast. It's not like he got zapped in freaking Space Jam and lost all his powers. Everyone is coachable. I think I've heard it said before, but like, we just expect this scheme. In this scheme, we expect all our players to be like the ones that save us. That's not how good teams work. The best teams in the league, Lions, Ben Johnson makes the most out of all his players. He makes he gives the players the best areas to be themselves and maximize their talent. Our scheme, we're like, hey, you need to go maximize your talent on this play, no matter what's called. We need 4 guys to get to this is really our scheme on defense. 4 guys must get to the pass rusher every time. We rarely blitz. And then on the back end, you need to be super sound in your match zones, your normal zones, and your man coverage. Even the freaking mesh play where we're running straight man and people are saying, oh my God, Sauce can't run with the guy. They're going to win every time on mesh. Mesh is just a runaway man concept. And Sauce almost got back in phase after running they ran the 2 shallows and he couldn't do it. So it's not when we don't put our players in places to succeed. We just ask them to bail us out time in and time out, and we can't do it.
Brutal. Comments, questions, super chats, cut the line. Film review from Andrew Fialco on the day Joe Douglas was shown the door during the bye week. Purple Belt Mike says, change the name to the New York Buns since we are ass. The New York Buns, huh? Hey, Bobby, what do you think of the name the New York Buns for the Jets?
That's pretty funny, Mike. I like that.
Yep.
Hey, Andrew, you look pretty sharp today.
Yeah?
Yeah, you dressed up for Jake's show today. You look good, man.
Someone said Andrew looked like a lumberjack earlier.
I don't know. I don't think he looks cool. Like Jake looked cool yesterday. You have to see Jake. You guys both look good. Yeah. Well, so Sauce better get his acting here. They should just bench him for a couple of games. Do you think he's hurt? Jay thinks he's hurt. Do you think he's hurt?
Sauce?
Yeah.
You're saying I think he's hurt, Bobby?
Yeah, you said one time you think he was hurt.
Well, remember he went out of the game against the Niners, and then he went out of the game a little bit against the Vikings. I just wonder if it was more of a real injury than we realized. But I'm not. But I don't think him being hurt is an excuse for some of these plays he's allowed. So
Okay, gotta ask Andrew something. Okay, Andrew, remember at the beginning of the football training camp, you got excited because we had a backup quarterback that's good. Why don't we use him at all? What's the problem with that?
You want Tyrod to play?
Yeah, I want Tyrod to play. He's more mobile.
Yeah, but at this point, like we're 3-8, we're not really contending for a playoff spot. I would rather give Rodgers the rest of the year to see if maybe he can
Well,
work
what
some
happens
things out.
if he gets hurt, though? He might get hurt. What happens then?
If Rodgers gets hurt, then I mean, I hope he doesn't, but he's gonna.
No,
retire.
I'm just saying he could like last season.
yeah, but he's probably not here anyway next year. It's an easier decision to move on from him.
Right.
Yeah. No, I knew we were going to do that. Yeah, we said that.
Yeah.
That's sad because he's a great quarterback. You know, when you have an injury like that when you're 40 years old, it's hard to get over.
Yeah,
That's
100%.
Just look at you, Bob. You could barely move because you're old.
I know you did it. You saw me at the thing. They took good care of me, right?
Yeah.
They had me going in the golf cart. Then I got a wheelchair. Do you hear what Gator said?
What did Gator
In
say?
the video, he goes, it's like the longest yard or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the, when I was going outside. For me, Noel, yeah. So you look good, Andrew. I have to say you look good today.
I literally got a haircut like 30 minutes before me and Jake were supposed to go on. So
Very good. Was it a lady or a guy?
no, it's the same. It's the same guy I've been going to for 15 years now, probably.
What's his name?
Tommy. You want to come?
Oh, is he Italian?
You could come see him, and then we could go hit the town.
Where you live?
In Westchester. I'm so far from you.
Yeah. No, that's not true. I could come down the what's that windy road highway? What's that windy highway you go down?
A windy highway. I-287. Cabin Z. I'm not so good with that type of stuff.
No, it's very
Bronx River.
No, yeah, is that the Bronx Road? Maybe that's the Bronx Road, yeah. When I come from, I met my Aunt Mary. It only takes like 2 hours, 3 hours to get down there.
Fantastic.
Okay, now thank you very much, Jake, for having me talk to Andrew.
That's all you had for us today? You have nothing else?
Oh, you want more? I could talk more, but usually you want people else to.
I'm getting feedback that you're bringing the show to a halt. I thought you'd bring some energy. I've been live for 3 hours here.
All right, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not entertaining like all you calling people. You just sit back, never talk. Okay, so Andrew, you're awesome. I'm telling you. So you should come down to see the game on December 1st. You can't?
Oh, you're going to the Seahawks game?
Yeah, because my friend Addison's birthday. They're going to kidnap me on Saturday and bring me down to the game.
I mean, I told myself I'm never going back to.
Come on, you got to meet me though. Jake has work though. He has to work for the radio station.
I'll think about it, Bob. I'll get back to you. But
Gator says Bobby's bathrobe is calming him into a deep sleep. Yeah, next time you call in, I need you to have on real clothing, not the bathrobe.
Well, it's like 30 degrees up in Vermont.
Okay, so do you own a sweatshirt, perhaps? Why do you need to wear a robe?
I love my robe. It's my. What's that thing called when you're like entertaining? You wear your.
You're not Hugh Hefner, Bobby. I think you need to wear some normal clothing.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. Okay, next time I'll dress up nice.
All right.
Like Andrew.
Wear a suit. Wear a suit.
I am not. No, I don't dress up that. No.
Do you own a suit?
Yes, I do, but I don't wear it.
When was the last time you wore a suit?
Probably about 2 years ago. I don't like suits.
All right, well, let's do a show where we all wear suits.
No, I am
Bobby,
not.
Bobby, if you wear a suit, I'll wear a suit.
Yep.
I
And
am not
Bobby,
wearing a
I'll let
suit.
you co-host a future show if we both wear suits.
No, I'm not wearing no suit.
Well, you've always said you want to co-host the show. I'll let you co-host the show if
No,
we do it in
that's-
suits.
I think you
Come on, it's the bye week. I need some interesting content. We'll do it later in the week.
I'll try.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
Yep. And then you come down December 1st, right? If I wear a suit.
Hey.
Yeah.
I
Hey,
will
you
wear a
haven't come on my new show yet. You have to come to my new show. You promised me to come.
Yeah,
My
you
other
gotta-
one's canceled. So
Okay, you got to give me like we got Jake will connect us. I'll come on.
the Legend of Bobby Midnight. The Legend of Bobby Midnight.
Okay, that's the.
How do we know you're a legend, though? Who gave you that name?
Oh, guess who?
Well, I asked. I don't know.
You had him as a co-host on Saturday.
Nicholas Shine?
Yes, Nicholas Shine.
Oh.
I just subscribed, Bob.
Oh, thank you. You got to come on my show.
Yeah. Now I'll know when you're live.
I mean, Bobby, you're missing a huge opportunity here. The offer has been rescinded because you didn't jump at it. But I was giving you a chance to co-host this show, the biggest show for all Jet fans, in a suit, and it would be great promotion for your channel. You didn't even realize.
I will wear a suit. I told you. Didn't I say that?
No, you took way too long to answer.
Okay, then I won't wear a suit then.
I'll reconsider the offer. I'll think about it.
Okay, we'll talk to you guys later. Have a great night. You're
Bob.
awesome, Jake, and you're awesome, Andrew.
Appreciate you, Bob.
We love you, Bobby.
Oh,
I
you
will.
know I'm doing another Zoom meeting. Oh, farts, Jake's going live. Gotta end my friggin' stream. I'm Bobby.
Incredible. To those in the chat, I mean a full actual suit, not a birthday suit. Just want to be very specific here. Your girl's in the chat, Andrew. Fialco fangirl says, hi, Andy.
One day we're gonna have to figure out who this is. It's not any. The crazy part is, like, I asked all my friends. I've asked them so many times. Like, nah, it's not us. I still think it might be, but you know, I will never know.
Tommy says, wear the top part of the suit with no pants. It's a good compromise. I mean, I might ask Bobby to stand up, though, Tom, just to prove he's in the full suit. So I don't know about that one. Anyway, Andrew, I appreciate you hopping on, man.
Yep. By the way, Jake, this tweet that I had to retweet it too because it's so good, and you said it right when I was coming on the show. The Woody Johnson easily watches Jake Asman streams. I literally think it's possible. I think he's tuned in before.
He told me when I met him in Canton last summer before the Revis and Klecko ceremony. He said he was aware of the show and that he would come on the show. And then he told me to contact, I won't say who, but gave me like the point of contact in which I reached out, and it led to nothing. So if Woody wants to rectify the situation, come on this show and talk to the fan base. All right. Talk to the fans.
Well, yeah. I guarantee. Well, 100% he knows this show is a thing because I know he's on Twitter like no end. I know that. He would never be able to. I don't think he would ever come on the show just because I think he would. I mean, I don't know what Jet fans would do, but I don't know how positive of a.
Imagine Woody Johnson taking a call from Bobby Midnight.
Yeah. Well, Bobby would be the nicest guy to him, so that would be good.
Hi, Woody. Where are you from? Yeah.
Somehow
do you know
he's been on
Noel?
Bobby's
Do you know Noel? I was at the game. I met Noel.
Oh man.
Imagine Woody taking a call from Gary.
That would be must see TV. 100%.
Luppy writes in, thinking is overrated when you have Jake. I mean, what look, I'm not saying I should be in the interview process with Woody and Chris, but there's no way I could do worse than them if I was in there asking some questions.
Yeah. Well, and now I see in the chat two things quickly. David wrote, have you sent your CV into the Jets for the head coach position? If anyone wants to send my CV in, I would love to give it to you. I'm just not qualified. And then someone also said that Fialco fangirl is Bobby. But I don't think Bobby's doing that.
Oh my God. Also, wait a second. I bookmarked this. I wish I saw this earlier. We have a policy here where if you come after one of our great guests who give us their time and insight on the show,
Oh yeah.
we won't stand for such a thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, Adnan wrote, question, why do you bring Andrew on here? He's clueless. Adnan, enjoy the hole, you bum. Now look what you've done. No more protection from the Asmaniacs. Had to pull you out of the chat and cast you down with the sodomites. Some time in here will feel like you've been run over by the lane train. You understand me? You catch my drift? Give him another 24 hours to think about it. See ya. All right.
Jake, I appreciate that, one, but two, it's so funny, and I don't know him at all, but like your fan base has been like 99.9% positive to me, like meeting everyone, like all the comments. And I've sometimes checked the comments on the YouTube shows I'm on with you, and he sometimes says, like, he's in the comments, like, who is this kid? He's an idiot. And I just said to him in the chat, I responded, I'm like, yo, why don't you want to come on and talk? You could tell me what you don't like, but so be it. We just need, we have too much negativity anyways.
It's unreal. Andrew, great job, though, man. Appreciate you hopping on.
Yes.
And I don't know. I guess I do think next week, since there's no current game stuff to watch, if you want to start doing some cut-ups on, Shador, Jalen Milroe, Cam Ward, why not? Let's start looking at college prospects.
If you want to ask in the Discord, or I know Alan has asked me like a bunch of times to do Lions film.
He should pay you on the side, like it's OnlyFans, but for NFL film, for you to do Lions cut-ups.
Yeah, I will do Lions cut-ups if that's the case. But
no one wants that besides him. So
I was gonna say that might have 10 viewers of people that want to watch Lions film. We'll
do Lions film if they hire Ben Johnson. Then we'll do Lions film.
Yeah. Oh my, that would be one of the best days of our lives. That's fair. But yeah, if you want to ask me in Discord, I don't know if I have draft access yet to film, but if anyone wants like something else specific, or we could, I don't know what the hell we could do. I'm here to entertain you guys. So y'all let me know what you guys want, but I could try and make it happen.
Andrew, tremendous job out of you. I appreciate it as always.
Yep. Appreciate you, Jake. Thanks.
Andrew Fialco, JetsXFactor.com. That's where you could read his work and watch more of his film reviews, and his Twitter, Fialco21. Follow him there. This is a great comment from Tom Ace. Andrew's a great dude. It was a pleasure sharing a bus ride from one Jets drive back to the parking lot with him in July. Back when we still had hope, Tom. I remember that. Gator says Andrew's impressive for an 11-year-old. Unreal. All right, 3-hour Joe Douglas stream in the books. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching. We're back tomorrow. Jeff Parles will be on in his usual time at 4 o'clock. And who knows what else will happen. There'll be a lot of fallout from the Douglas stuff. Check the beat, right? They're going to unload all the off-the-record stuff they've had that they've been keeping, close to the vest until they could share it. So there'll be some info that will come out over the next 24 hours that we'll be talking about tomorrow about this team. So we'll break it down then. Have a good night, everybody. Hang in there, Jet fans. I know it feels like everything's crazy right now, but this was happening. Whether it happened today or the end of the year, this was happening, and it's the right move. Now they got to get it right. Who's helping Woody make these hires? That's the question. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks to the 700 of you who are still watching live and the thousands who are watching after the fact. Thanks again to Andrew for coming on. All the calls, all the super chats, memberships. You guys pay the bills. I couldn't do it without you. Talk to you guys next time. Go Jets, everybody. Hang in there, folks.